Bam, we're live. Brian, hi.
I missed you.
It's been a while.
I know.
Where is Brian? Why wasn't he on any of the games coverage? I heard rumors that you got a really bad case of COVID. Is that true? And you were hospitalized and vented?
No.
Oh.
During the games this year, I had the opportunity to work kind of on the internal production team for the broadcast. And I thought that it would be important for me to commit myself to that and not be distracted or put myself in any environments where I could potentially, just be in risk of getting in trouble. I didn't want to have
leak stuff.
Yeah.
Like James Sprague did, kind of.
I was on the show for that, unfortunately, but it's even, obviously on those shows, there's a lot of speculating going on, and it's kind of weird to be in a group of people that are speculating about things that you already know about.
Right. I totally agree. So what did you do over there? What did you do? You worked with Charlie and Joe Novella, Charlie Doobie, class act, and Joe Novella, class act, two of the classiest dudes I ever worked with.
Yeah, and so it's Hamilton Rhodes and Mike Roth, who's the director there, and those guys. I worked with them at Wadapalooza. I worked with them at the MAC. I worked with them at Granite Games, and then I worked with them at the games. I don't know what the technical role is. Some have called it a floor producer or a field producer, but in this particular instance, I had a mobile headset that had a direct line to the producer, Tim Pabst, who I also worked with at Granite Games, and Chad Schroeder. So the three of us were able to communicate. And it's better than for me to have a line to the producer than the director, because the director has so many things going on. And the last thing he needs to do is hear from me. If there's something critical that we're talking about, it's Tim's job to communicate that to Mike. And then Mike will make the decision of how to react based on what people at home see. So my objective in doing this is hopefully to tell the stories of more athletes better via the broadcast. And I know that there's still a lot of want in that regard for changes with regards to the broadcast, but there are also it's really easy to just say give us wide shots all the time, and there's certainly some value in that perspective, but there are a lot of other things in play, and this year I've had a chance to learn about some of those from a different perspective than I've ever had before.
If you want a bee friendly shirt, and it's got a cool picture of Brian on the back, small one up by the neck. It's really cool, actually. You go to...
they surprised me with these shirts.
Oh, you didn't even know?
No.
Are you going to sue?
No. It was, I think that the logo on the back, the Vindicate guy made, and then he was working with Sherpa Works. They sent me a sneak peek of that mock-up, but I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought they were playing around, because that's what shirts guys do, or maybe it was a sticker. I didn't know. And then at the games, I showed up. I saw Ken from Sherpa Works, and he just tossed me this shirt, and I was like, "Oh, damn, that's pretty cool."
Ken, so it's a Sherpa. Just go to SherpaWorks.com and people can get that. Can people buy that shirt?
Yeah, it was the thing that was kind of awkward about it is he gave one to Lauren Khalil. She wore it on the Morning Chalk Up's review show one night, so people saw it a week ago, maybe more. And then there were a few that he brought on site with him that he had been giving out to some people. We had a little get together at the RV camp one day, and I gave some out to some people there. And then a lot of people were asking about him, but I didn't even know. I didn't even know they were being made, so I didn't know where they'd be available or when. But today he finally did make them available if you want to get one.
Travis Bellinghausen, if you're listening from Vindicate, see this shirt right here? Can we change the B to a C? Could it be C.Beaver? And we make a and then on the other side, can we see the other side of that shirt and see the little picture of Brian? Do they show it?
I don't know if there's another. I don't think there's
that's
a back
too bad.
There
it is. There it is on the sleeve right there. Nice. And we have a picture of Caleb. C Beaver, and then like a picture of Caleb. That would be awesome. You like that, huh, Sousa? Sousa's dying.
I thought you were gonna have a different picture.
And listen with the and make Caleb's eyes really big, and then in the pupils maybe a picture of a sea urchin or something, or a sea anemone. And all that money we make from selling the t-shirts will go directly to purchasing Caleb a new computer. God, I love this idea. I did use the manscaping. I did use the manscaping clippers. They've never been used on my balls or my cockins, but I did use it on my face on the second shortest setting.
How do you feel?
Good. My mom called and said, "Hey, you should shave that shit." And then I asked my wife, "Hey, should I shave it?" And she goes, "I'm not going to tell you what to do." And then as she walked away, she goes, "It's weird kissing you." And I just I was at the counter, I think eating like a bowl of meat and beans. And I just walked up and I went straight to the bathroom and I just fucking shaved it off.
That was all you needed to hear.
Yeah. I think I was just looking for like.
Those clippers are easy to use.
Dude, I only have the 3.0 and they have a 4.0. They're the best clippers ever. I mean, I've never tried to go shorter than this with them, but like they're so nice. They're so nice. I don't know why, but they're so nice. And I have a 20. Those are expensive. I have a $20.
Send me the link. I want to try them out.
Okay, I'll send you a picture. I heard though that if you do use them on your balls, they chop your balls up.
Oh, I'm not planning to use them on my balls.
All right. So I used clippers once on my balls that weren't for my balls, and within like a half a second, it gave me like 20 small paper cuts on my testicles. It was horrible. Look at Paul Desmond 4.0. Paul, do you nick your nuts? Do you nick the golf balls? The avocados? I saw today that Dave Castro went over. Sorry guys, we're lagging getting started. But I saw today that Dave Castro and Don Fall, right? Yes, this is on the Dave Castro Instagram. A fun afternoon session with 15 affiliates from the Bay Area. I didn't even know there were 15 affiliates left.
Have you sent Dan a shirt?
No. Huh. That's a great idea. We did invite him on the podcast.
Send him a shirt to the note. Say congratulations, join the club.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Okay, I like that. Fun afternoon session with 15 affiliates from the Bay Area and the new CrossFit CEO Don Fall. Thanks for hosting CrossFit Palo Alto. The discussion. Thanks for the discussion, guys. MVP of the session was Neil Maddox. And you can kind of see him just to the left. It looks like that's him, just to the left of Don. Right.
I came across Neil Maddox's name today as doing some prep for this show, actually.
Oh, like for some sort of skills or some sort of record he set for the games?
He's got 4 event wins in his career, and Adler now has 4, and Guy now has 5. So he was just on the list near them.
Wow. I don't think that's interesting. Who's a better CrossFitter, games athlete all time? If you were to put Neil Maddox at his prime, Adler and Guy in a competition, who'd win?
At this point, I think Adler would probably have to take it, even though one of his better finishes was in the 2020 year. He does have 2 top 5 finishes. Neither of the other guys have any.
Gotcha. And then if you go over, will you click on the CrossFit affiliates Instagram? This is perplexing to me. So we have the new guy with Dave talking to affiliates, but if you go over to the affiliates Instagram and you click on it, they haven't posted in 4 days. They must be taking some time off after all that hard work at the games. And it's just junk they're selling. Anyway, Brian likes to keep his head above the fray, so I will leave it at that, and I will revisit this at another time. Let's see. But I am curious. That was a surprise to me to see. That it is good to see that the CEO is out and about, kicking ass already, taking names. He's in good company.
Is that different than we usually see from the CEO in the first few days to weeks in the job?
Shit, I don't know. I know Greg was always out and about talking to the affiliates. I do think that it was premature when Rosa did it. I think Rosa was destined to fail because he just didn't know what CrossFit was, and he went out and exposed. When you go,
how many CEOs have there been in the last 15 months? 4, 5?
There was. Well, I don't know about in the 15 months, but in the last 2 years, there was Greg. There was that other guy, the garbage guy. Then there was Greg. Then there was Dave. Then there was Rosa, then there was none. Then there was some dude that was the president who I think doesn't work there anymore, but they won't tell us that he doesn't work there anymore. I forget that guy's name. I met him in
And then there was the interim, and now there's this.
And then there was that girl, Allison, the CFO. Yeah. And then now there's Dawn.
So hopefully he sticks around for a while. I think some consistency could be a good thing.
Yeah, steep learning curve. He needs to immerse himself with Dave and Nicole. Steep learning curve. Boy. Anyway, I'm avoiding. I was going to show you the new CDC, the COVID guidelines by the CDC, but let's dig into the CrossFit Games instead. Before we start, I just want to ask you some big picture questions before we start. You've done power rankings. We did predictions. You're arguably no better student of the game of athletes' capacity, and are you shocked by the workouts this year?
There's like a left turn. I was expecting you to ask me about the athletes. Am I shocked by the workouts?
Because here's why. Obviously, you see where I'm going. It's a loaded question. You had this pool of athletes, and you talked about how they were going to do, and somewhere in there had to be some presuppositions that we all have of what the challenges are going to be for these athletes. So, like, if it was a knitting contest, we'd have no fucking idea who was going to win. But we have 15 years of games that you thought you knew what they were kind of going to be doing to some extent, a pretty good extent.
I would say, you did catch me off guard with this question. There were a couple workouts that surprised me. For the most part, and when I look at the total test, it's not that surprising.
Okay, and what workouts surprised you the most?
I would say the biggest surprise to me was the skills medley. Now, it wasn't surprising that they had some kind of skills test. I thought that they would have some kind of skills test.
That's the pegboard crossover? That's the one with all the three or four new things, the unbroken
more than
shit,
that.
and yeah.
So, and I think that JR and Taylor mostly nailed the analysis of this one last night, which is it's okay to have new elements. You should have new elements at the games. It's weird to have a workout that has so many new elements and not give the entire field a chance to test themselves or prove that they have those skills. It could, I think they even mentioned it could, lead to future iterations of seeing some of these skills in an environment where everyone's tested by them. But I think that for the most part, if you're going to have a new implement, that it should be available for the entire field to test.
So you're mad at Adrian?
Do I sound mad?
No, you don't sound mad at all. But it's some constructive criticism. I brought that up with him, and he said absolutely. I said I would have liked to have seen them have 2 weeks, and he looked at me like I was out of my fucking mind when he was on the show. And I felt him. I thought he had a good answer. We have to test their ability to adapt also, and that was one of those things. Or a new skill.
Definitely. But if you're going to put something in that you want them to adapt to, give all 40 of them a chance to adapt to it. Don't, the obvious things. I think, first of all, that it was really unfortunate that the L-sit press to handstand was buried so deep in that workout that we hardly got to see anyone do it. None of the women got there. 3 of the guys got there. 2 of the guys were able to
None of the women.
I don't think any of them were able to finish the 25 crossover double under, so we didn't even get to see them attempt it.
Right.
And I think that that's something that, man, that's annoying, that dog over there. I think that's something that most of the community would have appreciated getting to see, because I think that a lot of the athletes would have been able to do that. And you might have even seen some people kind of getting it for their first time on the competition floor, potentially.
Right.
It would have been an exciting moment and a fun moment. And a good test for the athletes to say, like, okay, well, I haven't really mastered this, or I don't know if I have. Is this something that I'm able to do when it matters the most? And we saw that in other regards, notably with the Sandbag, where in the back, not a lot of people were having very much success. Ricky was struggling with the 260. Only 2 of the guys even managed to do the 300, but you put them on the competition floor, and it's a totally different ball game. I think we might have seen something similar with the press to handstand, and that was a missed opportunity to showcase that movement as a new and potentially unexpected movement for some of the athletes. Whereas now, if we test it next year in that regard, they've had a full year to test, and therefore, to test and practice that, and therefore that thing that Adrian was seeking, which is their ability to adapt to something new under pressure, is lost with the 4 or 5 different movements: pirouette, press to handstand, legless pegboard, unbroken sets of jump rope, unbroken pistols, like all of those things. I don't know if it was necessary to reveal them all in one workout that not everyone got to do.
If you don't mind me asking, how did you know that Ricky was struggling in the back with a 260?
He told me. Most of the athletes talked about that. Actually, one of my friends who works for CrossFit Media came to me, and before the men even took the floor, he goes, dude, the competition just happened in the back, and there was only 2 guys that were even able to get the 300 back. And I saw Ricky and Kotler and Ben Gerard after the event, and Ricky was like, I'm like, damn, dude, that was impressive. He goes, yeah, man, I could barely get the 260 back here warming up.
Wow. I'd never seen so many. Basically every athlete after they lifted did that shit that people do, like after they've been in a car accident, like this shit and like this. And they were like, you know what I mean? They were doing shit and they were getting in some fucking contorted positions. I mean, if you think about it, like Justin Medeiros had his head like this with 340 pounds pushing on his fucking head and straining his neck. It doesn't look like shit to us at home, but dude,
I had a really good
it would kill an average person. Go ahead.
I had a really good vantage point for this workout. And I will say that the last 20 or 30 minutes of the men's sandbag ladder is the most fun that I've ever had at any individual CrossFit event anywhere. And I've been to a lot of competitions around the world. It was such an awesome environment. I think every fan and every athlete abandoned all sense of who was lifting. Everyone just wanted everyone to be successful with the lift. And it
was us against the bags.
Yeah. And it was great. And this is exactly what I think Adrian's talking about, is give them something that they haven't done. You tell me, you've been doing CrossFit and been to boxes all over the world for 15 years. Have you ever seen a sandbag over 200 pounds? Maybe at 250 once somewhere. Well, the starting weight for men was bigger than that.
Right. Right.
Now, stones is one thing, and I talked to Nick Fowler about it, but sandbags like that, and you just had to figure it out. And it was amazing. The 2 athletes that impressed me the most were Jacqueline Dahlstrom and Justin Medeiros. And not that either of them ended up winning.
How about Emma McQuaid was pretty impressive too, right?
The athletes as a whole were incredibly impressive. The thing that I really respected about Justin was that his movement pattern from first bag to last bag was identical. The hardest part of the lift for him was the deadlift, especially as the bag got heavy. But he got it into his lap. He positioned his hands a certain way. He took a clear and obvious and big breath in. And in one effort, he got it up and did the rotation technique that the strongman who demoed it for them, Jerry Pritchett, I think, explained. And then, Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Jacqueline Dahlstrom is a bodyweight specialist. She should be dominating on ring muscle ups and handstand push-ups and handstand walking. And the fact that she beat Amanda Barnhart and Laura Horvath and Tia Toomey and all these women in this workout, and the only person that beat her is Danny Spiegel, who was absolutely incredible in that also.
Savage.
And the way she did it was unique. She got it up there. She inched it up in this way that really no other athlete was able to do. I'm sure the strongman would have kind of said, like, that's not a very efficient technique, but it worked for her.
Cole tried it. Cole Sager Ward using that technique.
I know you guys talked about it last night, but that was insane to watch in person. I thought the same as you guys. He was going to black out for sure. 310 pounds just sitting on his chest for 30 to 40 seconds.
The Fergie Show asks, is Brian moving to Northern New York with the Khaleesi? No, the question is the Khaleesi moving to the Sevan Podcast like Brian? I think he's probably been drinking. He had his question all screwed up. When you mentioned that no woman did the press to handstand, there were a couple events that I thought, that opening event with the laps being shorted and it was a disaster, but it was fun. From our place where we sat doing this show and doing the commentating, it really charged us up, right? Like, it was fun that there was a colossal fuck up, but it moved it was still a great event. It moved so quickly to another event. And that's another thing right there. That is a colossal fuck up in my mind, that none of the women got to the L sit or the low position to even try it. That is a fucking problem. But that's how good the events were. I call it the Donald Trump effect. Like, he has just one fuck up right after another. So you just keep forgetting that he did this and he did this, and you just it just kept moving forward. And I now that I think about it, that was Chase Ingram even said, were you standing next to Chase and Sean when Chase dropped that line? Oh, Adrian, a giant bead of sweat just rolled down Adrian's head and he can breathe a sigh of release as Nick Matthews completed the press to handstand.
No, I never stood next to him the whole weekend.
Really? Where you weren't? I picture you standing in a room, the three of you. And you're like, that dude only has one arm. That dude's mom just died. That dude has the most games wins with throwing a ball. That's what I pictured you doing.
I have done that in the past. At the Granite Games, I was right next to Chase. And at the MAC for one of the days I was right next to Sean. But I would text them things occasionally. Just the vantage point is different. So for the North Park events, they weren't out at North Park. They were in a broadcast trailer calling it from there. So they could, they have a limited point of view from there, and I have a more, so I can get a different perspective than them. And in the Coliseum, they're up in like the mezzanine, like the second, between the first and second tier, looking down from a horizontal view. And so I just go down on the floor to a different angle where I can see a little bit, the perspective of the floor differently than they can. And so kind of a divide and conquer type things. We can see from more perspectives. And is
that the first year they haven't been out on
North Park? I believe so. Yeah. And actually Sean was saying that was somewhat of a relief. It's a pretty tough environment calling it from North Park up where they were before. It was often very hot, very crowded. There was a lot of things, like a lot of commotion and stuff going on that could be distracting. So he didn't mind that change.
I don't even, Ryan Menard, I don't even do CrossFit and I love this shit podcast. Now you could read that a couple ways. I'm going to just,
you did not read it the correct way.
Okay. Oh yes. Sevan Spiegel 2024.
So I'll say, since you brought it up, I'll say the bike to work event was unfortunate. That the final lap of the men's race would have been extremely fun and compelling. I'm 100% sure that Fikowski would have won that event if Lazar and Spencer hadn't missed the lap. The reason that I know this is because
whoa! That's the first I heard that. Wait, why? What the fuck did they have to do with that?
Because those were the athletes he was citing. So they were within 20 seconds of him, and there was another 25 seconds to Ricky and Justin in that group with 3 laps to go. On lap 4, Yona could cite them because he could see them because they were within 20 seconds. He could not see 45 seconds behind them on the track. And the way that the track was, once you made a turn, there was a period of time where you couldn't see anything unless someone else made the turn. And then once you went up the hill, you couldn't see anything until someone else crested the hill. And so even coming into the stadium, and the thing that it took us like hours to break down the broadcast, to run back the cameras and to try to find where the hell Ricky and Justin came from. But the entire lap, Yona he and Ricky are the best cyclists in that field by far. And you saw how they were working together early and teaching Justin and Lazar how to trade off the lead and draft. Yona knows how to sight on a bike as good as anyone. But the entire lap, he never saw Lazar and Spencer because they didn't do the lap. And he couldn't see Ricky and Justin because they were too far behind. And so by the time he came over the last hill and he was going around the last fence into the stadium and looked, Ricky still had not come over the hill like 200 yards behind him. So Yona had no sense of urgency. And Ricky saw him, and he just, guns a-blazing, went balls for the wall, risked it coming down the hill. He had the shorter lane, and, so it was a huge advantage for Ricky that Lazar and Spencer missed that last lap. It cost Yona 3 points in an event win and $1,000 for sure. It cost Lazar at least 15 points, which I thought might have been pretty significant for him come the end of the week. But I'll tell you this about Lazar Jukic. For everything or whatever else you think about him, his mental fortitude to bounce back from stuff like that was insanely good. After that event and the Capitol, he never wavered. He was so positive. He put it behind him immediately. I told him 2 days later, I'm like, dude, I still haven't gotten over the fact that cost you 15 points and you got over it instantly and just went out with the competition. He's like, that's
Souza, can we see the leaderboard real quick? I want to see what 15 points is.
If those 15 points alone wouldn't have had an effect, he still would have finished 8th.
Okay. Brian, have you talked to Fikowski or
yeah, I talked to him
Ricky
immediately
about this?
I talked to Yana immediately after the event while he was still on the field. I'm like, where did those guys come from? He goes, I have no idea, but on the last lap, I couldn't see anyone. I was going slow. I definitely could have gone faster and won that event easily. So he took the onus on him. But I'm telling you, I'm certain of it. If Lazar and Spencer had done the last lap, Yona would have won the workout. No question. No questions asked at all. The question is, would Ricky and Justin Medeiros have caught Lazar and Spencer? I think yes, and I think that would have been a really fun 4-person race for those next 4 spots. The other thing is that
let go back to the leaderboard one more time. Let me see one more thing, and then that would have been less points for Ricky also.
3 less points.
Okay, he's still safe.
Well, maybe up to 12 less points if he would have finished it. But I think he would have finished second or third, fourth at worst. It wouldn't have affected. Obviously, Sam Quant was almost 100 points behind him.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the other thing is when they came into the stadium, Spencer didn't hesitate. Whether he knew he was wrong or not, he just ran across. Lazar had that like hesitation, which cost him additional time. So he like double punished himself.
Oh there. Yeah. He got
Spencer
fucked.
Ended up finishing 5th in that workout, and Lazar finished 10th, which is kind of laughable. Like obviously they would have been within one or two spots of each other otherwise. So it was just the word I was used to describe that. It was really unfortunate. And the thing that I think was most unfortunate about it is there was nothing else going on. It was the first event of the weekend for any division. You have so many judges and scoring team there. You should have just had someone go out with every athlete. There are workouts where there's 40 people and there's 80 judges. Then there's 2 assigned to you, 1 in the stadium, 1 out of the stadium.
Right.
You just have someone out there that's specifically responsible for every athlete and does a little counter. And as they go by, they say 1, 2.
Brian, I've heard 2 stories though.
I've
heard that they were, Lazar was told to go in.
We didn't find any evidence of that when we looked at the footage going back.
But Adrian said that the judge actually told him to get both of them to get out.
We did see that.
Okay.
But I don't know where so there's a guy with an orange flag. The orange flag guy was not waving them into the stadium from the camera. We went back in the truck and looked at cameras over and over and over. We didn't see any orange flag people waving them in. Once they went into the stadium, there were definitely people telling them to go back out.
Yeah, there were. Okay. Hey, do you know what's crazy too? If he would have gone out, he may have finished even worse.
Maybe. The thing is that they decided to penalize them by adding their slowest lap time. And their slowest lap time included probably when they had to get off the pull-up bar, run their bike outside, and then get momentum to start going up and around the course. So I don't know. I think I wasn't upset. I mean, I know that some people think that they should have penalized them indefinitely. Taylor was, saying they should have got a 0 or something like that. I think that it ended up working out okay. And the girls, there were some mistakes on the girls. It was just not with the leaders, so it was less obvious. I knew instantly that Danielle Brandon had not done enough laps because it's impossible to make up that much time on one of those laps. She was like in 20-something place, and all of a sudden she's in 7th.
That's funny. I forgot about her.
The ones I didn't know about, because there's, as the event goes on, it's impossible to keep track of the 40 athletes and all those laps and whatever. Was Elena Karatala and Sungyoung Choi doing an extra one I didn't know about.
Oh, they both did.
Elena did 3 laps instead of 5, and Sungyoung Choi did 6 instead of 5.
Oh shit! Someone did 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
She ended up last place on the workout anyway. So,
this show's off to a funky start, so I'm just gonna keep being funky. Can you pull up the leaderboard again, and can we look at where Spencer and Saxon? Actually, maybe we should just go straight to the document that Brian made. Spencer Panchik finished in 17th place.
Yep.
And
I had him in 17th. I ranked him in 17th. He finished in 20th.
Okay, yes. He finished in 20th. And where did Saxon finish?
Saxon on the left there, I had him in 6th. He finished 11th.
Okay. So, because Spencer was ahead of Saxon for quite a bit of the CrossFit Games, wasn't he?
No, maybe early on, but it didn't last that long. Saxon made a little run in the middle of the event. He had some good event finishes. Saxon had a really up and down games relative to what he usually has.
Chris Hassel, yeah, because none of these shows are funky. More funky, please. All right, I'm trying to clean up. I'm trying to be professional. So what you guys are looking at here is the ranking that Brian gave prior to the games, his predictions for the men. And you see he predicted Justin Medeiros to be in first place Andy took first. He took Patrick Vellner predicted him to be in second place. He took sixth, and you can see there's that consistency. It goes down like that, and then down below there's a what are those things called down below? A legend, and the legend is helps you understand the color codes. And when you say you valued them appropriately, you gave yourself some wiggle room, like 3 places or something, up and down.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, maybe I could have been more critical and said I placed Adler 9th and he finished 5th, so I undervalued him. You could say that. I think
Lazar Jukic. Oh no, 7th and 8th. Okay, yeah, that's correct. Spencer 17th and 20th. Okay.
So I took, there's a little bit of liberty there, but the ones that are that were obviously off are in red if they did worse than I thought, and the ones that in green did significantly better than I had thought.
Before we dig in here, have you heard anything about the rumors of Haley Adams going to HWPO and Tudor Magda going to Brute? I mean I know you've heard them, but can you verify those at all? No. Oh, this is the document that Trump got raided for? This one up here? No shit. Brian had it the whole time. You can't verify those, or you won't verify those?
Cannot.
You cannot because you don't want to.
I don't know anything more than you guys talked about last night.
Okay, fine. I find that hard to believe. Let's just dig in here. Have you spoke to Patrick Vellner?
Yeah.
And what would you say? We got to get him on the show. I'm dying to know what his sentiment is. No, Souza, don't schedule any games athletes. I didn't mean it.
He's putting recaps of every event out on Instagram, and you can get a good feel for that. He's generally very open about that stuff. Of course, you can invite him on and talk about it. I know he's been having a little bit of a knee issue most of the year. I don't think that he use that as an excuse or anything, but like I said before we started the games, there were people in this field that could be fitter than they were last year, or just as fit as they were last year, that have worse finishes this year because the men's field is so good. I spoke to BKG right after the last event, and he's like, "Man, this is my worst finish since 2014." And I said, "I know, and you look really fucking fit." And he's like, "I am." And I said, "Yeah, but look at the top 10. This is as good a top 10 as the men's field ever has had. It's not embarrassing to finish 9th against this field. That's just how good they are." But that's not his mentality. BKG said, "I have to raise my level for next year." So that's now he sees the field has gotten better and he needs to get better.
And the new guy took a spot.
Two new guys.
Yeah, 2 new guys took 2 new spots, pushed everyone down.
Yeah, I mean, look, by
the way, we're talking about Ricky and Roman.
Yeah,
Roman and
there's
Ricky.
Roman and there's Ricky. There's also Sam Quant, who wasn't in the equation last year, but he was in the top 5 the year before. This validates that performance a little bit. So that's kind of a third new guy. There's also Jason Hopper, who's looked completely different than the Jason Hopper we saw last year. So in essence, that's kind of a 4th new contender. And outside of that, you still have Justin, you still have Pat. Adler was flirting with the top 10 last year. He obviously has made some improvements. Lazar was in the top 10. BK was in the top 10. Guy was in the top 10. So it's not that. It's not that shocking of a list, but this is what I was saying beforehand. Only 10 guys can be in the top 10. And therefore, with these new guys pushing in there, you have guys like Saxon, Noah Olson, and Brent Fikowski that were in the top 10 last year that couldn't make it this year because there's more guys that are really good at the top of the men's field.
I mean, Fikowski took 16th. I couldn't have talked you into that in a million fucking years. But before we go to him, though, hold on,
breakdown we can get to.
Okay, hold on. So is Vellner putting is Vellner doing any finger pointing at?
I think that the general
at the programming, like Christy Aramo is definitely like those guys.
I don't think Christy is complaining about the programming in general. She's just pointing out that the decision to not have the legless rope climbs in that workout definitely had an impact on how some of the women did on that workout, which is true. But they had to make a tough decision, and they ended up prioritizing safety over the test in that regard.
Wasn't it more? Wasn't it? Maybe I misread it, but I feel like there was a bigger picture piece. I'm paraphrasing. The way I read what she wrote was, "Hey, this isn't what we've been training for the CrossFit Games for the last 15 years, and we pretty much know what we're training for. And this year we didn't know what we were training for. Like
That's not. I would say that
that's not accurate.
that sentiment is not founded in fact. So
Okay.
here's
Oh, what do you mean that's not found in fact? That I'm reading into what she said,
no,
or
what she's saying. If that is what she's saying, or if that's what any athletes are saying. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to wait a few days to do this show. One was so that I could have a conversation with Adrian Bosman, and two was so that I could actually process what I just saw happen without making assumptions based on what I think I saw happen. So I would say that probably the reason why people feel that this test was different or skewed is twofold. One, there were a lot of new things, more new things than we're used to seeing. Taylor identified those last night. Secondly, the distribution of where the new things were and where the gymnastics/skill components fell was skewed. So a majority of the
what does that
gymnastics.
mean? What's that last thing mean? Where they fell was skewed. Oh, you mean like all in one workout?
So last night, Taylor identified 14 or 15 gymnastics elements that were in this competition. I only counted 11 because I didn't count some of the duplicates that he counted. But either way, 80% of them showed up in the first half of the workouts, or the first 7 scored tests. Because there's 13 tests, but there's 1,400 points because 2A and 2B counted as 200 each.
Okay.
So after Friday, you're basically just like, what the hell? This is a skills and gymnastics test. But if you just had flipped the 7 workouts that were last to first, you would have felt totally different. And you would have been Haley Adams saying, this is fucking bullshit. Every workout is heavy and beating me down, and I have no chance to show off my skills. Which is why I didn't want to come on the shows, because I had this whole picture the whole week. And so, I didn't feel the need to make any assumptions about what the test was after 5 workouts, because I knew there were going to be 14 scored events, and that over the course of those 14 scored events, the balance that we're used to seeing in terms of what are the limiters or what are the things that are being tested or where are the athletes trying to be exposed would play themselves out and be balanced over the course of the entire test.
Will Brandstetter, she posted a whole video and said she loved the programming as a whole. Okay, I apologize for misrepresenting. Thank you, Will.
Which makes sense. Christy is obviously extremely fit, and she's also extremely mature as an athlete, I would say.
Programming doesn't matter if it all balances out at the end, and it did.
Okay.
I don't think. I think that there was a lot of new stuff introduced, a lot of new stuff. And I think in the beginning of the show that you were even saying that maybe the crossover, not maybe, that the skills medley, some of those things maybe we should have at least given them a warning so that they could have had a better chance at. No, it's not what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that we either should have, which I think Taylor suggested this last night, had one new thing, maybe 2 new things tested where all of the athletes had a chance to do the test, to do the new thing. Instead, in the first round, you could be eliminated if you were Spencer Panchik or Tia Claire Toomey by missing 1 single under, which they both did when they were very close to finishing that set, and that was enough to keep them out of the next round, and therefore they didn't get a chance to do a legless pegboard or a pirouette. And only 5 people had the opportunity to do the crossover double unders, and of those 10 people, only 3 ended up trying to press the handstand. So I would like to see. I love the skill. I love the fact of having a skills test, but I would have liked to see a format where more of the athletes got to do the new stuff or try the new stuff.
Okay, fair. I'll throw away my notes from yesterday. I was about to dig in. Okay, Patrick Vellner. So have you heard any athletes complain about the about the test?
Like I said, most of the athletes feel like it was a lot of new stuff, and some feel like it was too much new. But I think that if anyone can once you take a couple days away, and if you actually take the time to sit and look at this, at what the test was, there were actually elements of this programming that I think are worth highlighting instead of criticizing.
Okay, fair. Let me throw one more piece out there. So Justin Medeiros takes first, and Patrick Vellner takes sixth. And you can, at first, you can be like bent out of shape, and then you can be like, well, it was Roman, Ricky, Samuel Quant, and
Jeff
Adler who pushed him out. Fair. Okay, I can get my head wrapped around that. I really can. But Fikowski is down at fucking 16th.
So Fikowski, here's a fun stat. Last year on the Echo Bike workout, he took first and got 100 points. This year on the Echo Bike workout, he took 35th and got 12 points. Those 88 points, the net difference of 88 points alone, move him from 16th to 12th. Obviously, he's one of the best in the Echo Bike, and the snatch was not something that slowed him down. But because the Echo Bike was paired with that strict upper body pressing movement that did slow him down, he lost a lot of points there. So he didn't get to flex himself on the Echo Bike the way that we've seen him in the past. This year, they had a bike workout that was outdoors instead of a kayak as a supplementary monostructural element. He took 35th on that biking event as opposed to 8th on the kayak event. So he gave up another 63 points there. Last year, in the format the yoke was tested, he managed to get 50 points on that workout. This year, only 16. And in the sprinting workout that he had last year, he managed to get 67. This year, only 26.
He got 16 points on this year's yoke workout?
Yeah. So some of the things that he's done well with, which is the yoke in the past, people will remember that he won Strongman Sphere. He had a decent performance on it last year, middle of the pack at least. He was in the bottom 6 this year. So some of the elements that he's traditionally shined with were paired with other things that were struggles for him. And that's more or less what happened to Jason Hopper last year, by the way. And as a result, it cost him 216 points that he got on workouts with those implements last year compared to not getting this year. And if he had gotten 260 more points, he would have finished 5th.
Over that comment, by the way, thank you for the 1999 crazy generous. It's funny. I recognize people's pictures and kind of like in their demeanor. This guy's always a little aggressive, as you could tell by his giant biceps. Overall feet, overall balance, I loved it, but crossover dubs could have been skateboard flips, not fitness. What's the biggest drop we've ever seen in an athlete from year to year that's not like, they get pulled out for an injury? Do you know?
No, I don't know. And it is.
I know Josh Bridges had a pretty big fall one year, but I think he was sick.
Yeah, and it might have not even been year to year. It might have been like he missed a year and then he came back and he was never able to get back to the top. I feel like that might have been the case for him. But I mean,
what did Fikowski get last year at the games?
3rd
and 16th. I mean, that's
yeah.
What did Ben Smith get the year after he won the games? After he won,
I think 2nd.
Okay, he went back on the podium.
2015 first, 2016 second, 2017 7th.
Michael, nice OG shirt. Thanks for the money. That's real money. Thanks, dude. Michael Banyan. I mean, are you shocked at all? Look at you. You have it red. Men, I overrated. Are you freaking out about Fikowski? Is he done? Do you think he's done? Bye-bye.
No. So one of the things that about the programming this year, and I think the guys did a great job last night, is highlighting, is that they were forced into certain circumstances in the workouts that took away Fikowski's best attribute, which is pacing. So there were a few workouts where you could certainly pace it and it could pay off. But in many of the workouts that he would, like I just talked about, in many of the workouts that featured the implements that he's best at pacing, they were coupled with things that were slowing him down. So it was a muscular fatigue preventing him from a pacing being executed. And on other workouts, like, for example, the wall ball dumbbell snatch, which he should be very good at, it was because there was so much rest and so few rounds, you were forced into a breakneck speed. So there was no pacing. So some of the best advantages that he traditionally has at the games were negated by the style and format of which Adrian crafted some of the tests.
So
and I think that's good. I think that that's okay. And I think that I was talking to Taylor and JR earlier today, actually. And I think that it's important for people to understand that just because this was the nature of Adrian's test this year doesn't mean that the test is going to look identical next year. Taylor had he was upset that there was only one monostructural weightlifting gymnastics test. And he said, I would like to see 3. Well, there don't always need to be 3. There could be 5 next year, and there could be 3 the year after that. And there's the variance of how you craft and move around some of those things is important. And that's what's, so when you're saying like, oh, we've been preparing this for this test for 15 years, and this was a totally different test. I don't think that's the case at all, first of all. But second of all, I also think that the test should be different year to year. And like Adrian mentioned prior to this test, he knows where the athletes are weak. He knows where they've been neglecting things. And now that he's exposed some of those things for some of the athletes, they're all going to practice those things. So I'm confident that we'll see some elements of this test next year, and there's other elements that we won't see again for a while.
I'm going to say something really stupid, but it's really true. If Justin would have taken 6th and Tia would have taken 6th, this would be fucked up. They're the anchors. Their 2 first places are the anchors that legitimize this year, I think. I know that's harsh to say.
I think it's, I think it goes beyond that.
I remember someone saying, saying, could you program? And I think it was like, I don't know, 2014, 15. Could you program a games? Could you program an athlete out of the games? And some athletes, I think, would say, I think like you would ask Chris Spieler that, and he would say yes. And you would ask Rich Froning that, and he would say no. You cannot program me out of the games. I still win. And so my point is that you couldn't.
Let's check something here. Ready?
Okay. Justin and Tia weren't programmed out of the games, but you were starting to hint, at least the way I'm hearing it in my biased view, that Fikowski was programmed out of the games this year.
Or maybe he was just he was exposed. Some of the thing about Fikowski is we know he's not BKG. BKG is so consistent and steady across the board that pretty much any test he would end up in the top 10. I would say any test, barring an injury, he would end up in the top 10. But there are other athletes that have these little, like the way that they're good, or the reason that they're good, you can program them out of those strengths. And in this case, in several instances, Fikowski was, because he's not as well-rounded as BKG. He's much better than him at certain things. He's worse than him at other things. And in this case, the things he was best at were negated because they were coupled with some of the things he's worst at. But let's just look at the men from 2017, 2018. Okay. Fraser, he's in both top 10s. Fikowski's in both top 10s. Vellner's in both top 10s. BKG and Noah Olsen are in both top 10s.
This is 17 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Also in 2017, you had Scott Panchik. He didn't make the top 10 the next year. Ben Smith, not top 10 next year. Alex Anderson, not top 10 next year. Yonakoski, not top 10. Jason Smith, not top 10. So there was a turnover of 5. 5 of the top 10 didn't make it the next year. And that was exactly the same from men's field last year to this year. So it's not unprecedented for there to be about a 50% turnover within the top 10. Some years it's a little less. Some years it's more. But it's normal to have that turnover. And what we don't lose sight of the context that we were talking about. John Young and I did our pregame rankings. We both had guys the same top 15, but in a pretty different order. There were a lot of people with top 10 potential in this field, and even some guys that were well outside of our radar that were pushing for the top 10 during the competition, like Nick Matthew.
Cody, I appreciate you. I'm saying even dumber things than I say. I'll send you $20. Thank you for making me. You're a good dude. You're love drunk. That's why you think that. Barack Bez, rumors about Ellie Turner and Medeiros dating. I don't think it's true because I saw an Instagram post where someone tagged that they were Jason's girlfriend, and I went to the account and it was private. So I don't know. I don't think it's true, but I'm curious. It would be Maybe he has 2 girlfriends. I'm who's to judge? And
You want to know something cool?
What?
Or do you want to keep talking about the gossip mill?
No, I was gonna talk about Jason Hopper, but tell me something cool.
Yeah, we could talk about Jason Hopper.
Well, tell me what you were gonna say that was cool. No, nice.
Just because we were talking about some of the parity and this turnover rate,
Yeah.
I thought there was a pretty cool when it came to event wins this year at the games. I thought it was pretty neat. So on the women's side, there were 10 women who won events.
Wow.
And 7 of them won an event for the first time in their career. So,
wow.
And this is like, there's a uncertainty about Tia retiring at this point. I think Cara Saunders is going to retire. But the women's field is in great hands, regardless of if they both come back or neither of them come back. There's a lot of women that showed this year that they have the potential to shine at the CrossFit Games. That was cool. On the men's side, there were also 10 event winners.
Wow.
And 3 or 4 of them won for the first time. Ricky, did win 2 events when he competed in 2017. They obviously won't count for him. So, and nobody, men or women, won more than 2 events this year, which was also a pretty unique occurrence. So the parity on both fields is very good. The future for both fields is very bright. Obviously, Tia is still, dominating, I would say. And if she comes back, she'll be the heavy favorite. But if she doesn't come back, I think that there's it's wide open for 5 or 6 women. And I think if in the men's field, that everyone who finished in the top 10 has the chance to come back better next year.
Lazar Jukic, Sam Quant, Jason Hopper. Are these names we're going to start getting? These are our guys for the next 4 or 5 years. These are we're going to start seeing these guys fighting into the top 5.
I would say for sure for Lazar and Jason, and assuming that Sam Quant has shored up all his the medical problems that he had the previous year, also true for Sam. This was, I think, I don't know, I said it in the prediction show, Sam was the biggest unknown in the entire field. I think I put him in 15, 16, something like that. I think 16th. Because I just didn't know. He's a very quiet guy. Harry Palley's a very quiet guy. He did put a post up recently saying how much he values and respects Harry as one of his best friends and one of the best coaches he's ever been around, which was cool for him to say that because we don't know much about him. Everyone, including me, thought that he overperformed in 2020 and was a beneficiary of the format that year, and that if even if for example Vellner didn't have a pulled groin during stage 1, that probably Sam Quant would have taken 3rd instead of 2nd at the games that year, and that if there was a bigger field there, he might not have done as well. But when you come back 2 years later against what I've called the best men's field we've ever seen and looked this good, and I'll tell you what, the moment that I knew Sam Quant was relevant in this competition was at the end of the Capital workout. He picked up that sandbag, and while not everyone, but a majority of people were struggling with it, he just wrapped his arms around it. His course integrity was amazing, and he walked up those steps and passed a bunch of guys, and I was like, damn, Sam Quant is back.
What do you think about Vellner's win in Wodapalooza relative to how he placed here? He beat Adler there, right?
He beat everyone there. I've talked about it before. I think that Wodapalooza in general is the worst predictor of the major off-season events relative to the games. Obviously, you can do both, great at both or bad at both, of course, but there's more people who have inconsistencies with their performances from Wodapalooza to the games than they do from Dubai to the games or from Rogue to the games. There are a couple exceptions to that, like Katrin Davidsdottir generally doesn't do as well at Rogue as she does at the games, for example. But nevertheless, look, like Vellner still got 6th. It's worse than we're used to seeing him doing. It's not a bad finish. If it's true that he had a knee problem that he's been managing for up to 6 months, that's post Wodapalooza and obviously leading throughout the game season. So who knows? And he put a post up and said he's planning to come back, which I think is great. And as far as he and Fikowski go, both of them, it's they're getting into their 32, 33, 34, and those are the ages where you have to prioritize health over everything. BKG's talked about it before. Coming into the games feeling good is really different than coming into the games knowing that there's something that you're going to have to work around for the entire weekend when the test is that hard.
Samuel Cornwall. I was thinking about this earlier today. Thanks, Frank, for bringing this up. We had some unknowns this year, some great unknowns. Like, I'm so thankful we have people like Quant, Dallin Pepper, Jay Crouch, and the women have them too. Emma Lawson was fucking an amazing one. These rocket ships, and
conversation with Rob Forte Sunday night, by the way.
Okay, good. And I can't wait to hear about it. I'm gonna make a note here. They were unknowns, and we got to see them perform. Like, we had no idea. Was this dude gonna wreck shop? Like, you could have really high hopes for them. Now next year, Cornwall is gonna be kind of that guy, right? He's gonna be one of those unknown factors. Is he top 5? Does he win the games, or does he shit the bed because he's had 1 year out and he takes 26th?
I'll tell you who is going to have a really, what I think is going to be a tough decision is Rogue, of who they decide to invite and allow to compete there this year, because I think there are way more than 20 guys that are capable of being in that field. The reason I bring it up is because
have they ever invited someone from the team like that? Oh yeah, they invited Rich, right?
For the
Legends.
I don't know, but they've invited, they have the liberty to invite who they want for, I think, 15 of the 20 spots traditionally, and they usually give 5 to the qualifier. I'm not sure if that's the same format they're running back this year. Maybe someone knows. But I'm hopeful that we get to see Sam in at least one of the major offseason competitions this year, so we have a little bit of relevant data for him.
Cornwall?
Yeah.
Okay. His name is Samuel.
Okay. Well, the last time we saw him at the games, he, supposedly had gotten sick. He did have one incredible performance on the muscle up Sandbag workout.
After he got sick.
Was it the muscle up workout or was it the rope climb workout? I think it was the muscle up workout. Sled flip, pig flip, muscle up workout. Yeah. Sled drag. Anyway, and that was like a glimpse into the elite potential that he has. I think he won his heat and took second overall to Vellner on the workout. He has talked very highly about himself. He looked great this week competing alongside Rich. He didn't look like inferior to Rich. He looked like he was very much holding his own on just about everything. I think that, if Sam Cornwall comes back into the men's individual field, that's just another guy that's in the way, that's going to be threatening for a top 10 spot.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Oh, shoot. You can't see it. Oh, wait, look at. Oh, son of a. Okay, can you pull that? Oh, maybe I can share it some other way. Can you pull up that? I need to show Brian that. Brian loves the gossip. He's such a little gossip whore. Click on that, and then look at that top comment, people. Look at that top. Oh, it's not there. It's not there. Damn. It's in this picture, this screenshot someone just sent me. Maybe I can show it to you in a different way. Hold on. I'll just do this. I'll share it ghetto style. Look at this comment right here. So this is Ellie Turner. Put on a did Ellie get a win this games? She won at the 10? Yeah. Which event?
Ellie Turner. I apologize. I'm drawing a blank on that.
And her boyfriend didn't get a win, right?
Oh, she won the hat trick. It was, dude, her squatting speed, the rebounding out of the wall balls was insanely fast.
And she had depth. Or did she?
Yeah. Easily.
Look at this comment by O'Keefe on the bottom here. Look at everyone. Power couple. Power, like Ben Affleck and J-Lo. God, I'm showing my age. Power couple. Okay.
I wonder if there's
You want to comment on that comment of O'Keefe's, Brian? I know you like to. Romance is kind of your forte.
Oh, romance is my forte. No comment.
Yes, Rich. Fire. Bam. Best $2 I ever spent. I don't know what that means, but yeah. Oh, yes. You made a comment earlier. Compare no, that's not you. That's Mike Sauce. Mike the Sauce. It's Mike the Sauce. Hat trick. Justin Medeiros didn't win an event, did he?
He did not. It's the third time in the history of the CrossFit Games that the winner of the games has not won an event.
And the other were back in the turn of the century, right?
James Fitzgerald, 2007. Tanya Wagner, 2009.
Crazy.
But
Crazy.
do you look at his event finishes?
Do you want to say anything about that? Is there anything to say about it?
No, I mean, Fraser's done it, only winning one. Medeiros did it last year, only winning one. You do not have to win any events at the games to win the games. He was 18th on shuttle to overhead, 12th on elevated Elizabeth, and I don't think he had anything worse than 7th after that, or 8th after that. He was 8th in the capital. Justin Medeiros won the games because of the exact reason that he talked about in his post-games interview, which is he doesn't give away points anywhere. He fights for every point in every position and every workout, and he maximizes his potential better than any other athlete in the field every single time he takes the floor. It's by far the most impressive thing. None of the individual skills are that impressive. They don't shine out the way that Guy does sometimes, or Roman does sometimes, or any of these athletes do sometimes. He's just as steady and consistent and as efficient as possible every single time, and it is amazing to watch. But you have to watch in detail, though. You have to watch closely, and I know that it's hard sometimes to see on the broadcast because you can't see everything the same way you can in person. But being there, when I took the time to actually watch what he was doing, like I said about the sandbag, it was incredibly deliberate, incredibly intentional, and his execution is flawless. Feldner's talked about it. The guy just does not make mistakes. He hasn't made a mistake since last year at semifinals.
And what was that mistake?
Just mispacing a couple workouts.
And he's cheap. And he's cheap as all get out.
Cheap? What do you mean?
Just cheap. He doesn't he's frugal. He's good with his money. He watches every penny. I
didn't talk to him at all the whole week until after he'd won.
Him and Ellie Turner go Dutch.
What does that mean?
Like they both pay you. Like when you go out with a chick, you pay 50-50. That's good. You don't know what that means.
Okay. King of Romance. I pay 100.
Sevan thinking about Bethany's birthing plan when Brian is talking. I don't know who Bethany is. Is there any Bethany's in the games? I had Bethany Hamilton on the surfer. You know, I've had 3 one-armed people on the show. You did know that?
Yeah, you talked about it at one of our prediction shows.
That's pretty cool. Can you name them?
It's a good reminder, though, in case anyone wasn't there. I know you had.
Thanks, Brian. You kind of had my back there. Was that hard for you to do? That was cool. I had who?
Well, I'm assuming that Bethany Hamilton was one of them. Casey,
Yes.
I know, is one of them.
Yes.
And I'm not sure the other one.
Logan Aldrich.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget about Zach Rule. Had no legs.
Oh, shit.
He was one of our first ever podcasts, of the Revived podcast.
That's right. Thank you, Susan. So I've had four people with missing body parts. God, I need a tranny so fucking bad. As a regular, I think it would be good for me. We're not live, are we? Oh shit, we are live. We have 1,000 people watching.
Are you talking about on the podcast or just in your personal life?
Both. Well, I got 1 or 2 in my personal life, but I need like one, like a regular on the podcast, like that can answer like just questions for me. I don't know who Bethany is. Okay. Brian, I want to go over to the women. There's still a lot of dudes we didn't talk about. I have questions about Andre Houdet, Travis Mayer, of course, Jay Crouch, Eric Zanoni deserves a mention.
No. What he deserves is to be called by his proper name.
Oh, what is that?
Enrico.
Yes, that's what I said. Enrico Zanoni. Maybe the most handsome guy at the games.
Handsome, humble, funny. I just got to spend a little bit of time with him. He was great.
Does he speak English?
Not amazing, but well enough. You can invite him on.
Okay. Nick Matthew probably needs to be invited on the show. Is Nick Matthew? Okay? Before we go to the women, is Nick Matthew the Vanilla Ice of CrossFit? Is this just like a fucking? I not like Vanilla Ice, but just a one trick, one hit wonder. We're never gonna see him again.
Well, I'll be. Nick Matthews is
no, it's Matthew. Matthew.
I know Nick Matthews is
Sorry,
I blended those together. Is a very curious case for me going forward. He's been really close to making the games a couple of times, and based on the statistics that Tyler Watkins and I ran earlier in the year, you can make a pretty good argument that North American men deserve a couple extra spots than they have based on their performances at the games year after year. And if they did have those extra spots, he may have already been there. I do also think that this year featured some things that really favor Nick Matthew. Obviously, he excelled on some of those more specialty workouts. He's got really good gymnastics, as we saw, and he's also pretty good with the odd object stuff, which there was a lot of. So It's
So
possible
you don't
that
know. So you're not sure.
yeah, I'm not really sure.
So we throw him in the pile with Cornway for next year. Like, huh? Question mark.
The first question is, can he make it back?
Right.
Because he got in on a backfill this year and he didn't qualify through the last chance qualifier. So, apart from a failed drug test, he's not in this field at all. And we don't have this data on him either.
He took Phil Toon's spot?
Yeah. And he actually finished basically exactly where I ranked Phil Toon.
Oh shit. Wow. That's good stuff. Jay Bateman. Roman would have won based on final points if it weren't for the Sandbag tiebreak fail. Have we addressed this? I don't even understand the question. It was a 3-way fail, wasn't it?
I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to. Now the points.
Can you bring up the scoreboard real quick, Souza? Let's see what first, can you recap what happened? They were on the 300. Oh, he was out before. He didn't make it to the 350, right?
Okay, so what he's saying is he took 13th. He had the potential to take 8th if he would have won that tiebreak outright.
Okay.
And that's 64 points versus 79 points. That's 15 points. 15 points would not have been enough for him to win the game. So maybe he's talking about something else.
It would have still made him 12 points behind.
He also sacrificed 9 points on a hat trick where he failed to tap both heads of the dumbbell to the ground a couple times and got some no reps. He could have gotten an additional 9 points there. Even so, those 15 plus 9 points, 24 points, still would have left him at 1 point short. But this is what I was talking about, where we can point to moments in the weekend where Roman did not maximize his potential based on points. In a moment, Justin always did. That's why Justin won and Roman didn't. It was execution and maximization of opportunity.
Magnus Holgram, who watches the show only drunk. How many 3-legged guys besides Brian have you had on the show? What country is that? That MX? Is that like the new currency, the new world order where Klaus Schwab is? Is that Klaus Schwab money? Magnus Holmgren. All right. So much. All right. Too much shoulda, coulda, woulda. He lost. Shut it. So we have time to fill. Rob Forte, before we switch to the women, tell me about your schmoozing with the former games great.
Totally random. So I came downstairs to the hotel that the broadcast was staying in. They were having drinks on the broadcast at the bar, get together, and all the Australians were there. Jay Crouch and his brother, Baden Brown, not Ricky, he was with the underdogs and whatever else, but Rob Forte and some of I think Jay's whole family was there. His parents were there. And I ended up talking to Rob for a while. And it was pretty interesting talking to Rob because, we spoke to him. And last year he was unable to go to the game. So he was only able to watch Jay from home. And as we've talked about, there's some things that you can't see at home that you can see when you're there in person. And so this was Rob's first opportunity to be at the games in person, coaching a great athlete in Jay Crouch. And his assessment in mind of Jay is very similar, which is that he has all the physical skills. I mean, he's not the biggest guy out there. I'd say he's average to below average size and weight relative to the field, but he's strong enough. He did well on that back 9 workout with the yoke front squats and heavy deadlifts. He did okay with the sandbags. Like he's strong. He's strong enough to be at the games. He's got good enough gymnastics to be at the games. He could improve a little bit on some of his cardio stuff, but he's not terrible. But he didn't really do that well. And so Rob was watching him, of course, very closely. And then he was watching some of the other athletes, and he was trying to think to himself, it's got to be something intangible. It's something that these guys are doing differently in the workouts and he's not. And the funny thing is that Rob basically said this, and Jay told us this in the interview we did with him 2-3 weeks ago, which is that you have to lay it all on the line in every workout at the CrossFit Games. Otherwise, you're just going to bleed points every single time. You cannot be worried about the next workout. You cannot be worried about the next day. You have to go on the floor and risk it and hope that you have the ability to recover and perform again, and hope that you can rise to the level that you need to the next time that you have to take the floor. And your recovery is going to be worse than it usually is. Your sleep might be worse. Your nutrition might be worse. And you just have to trust that you've put in enough work and preparation to do it. Because if you take an event off or 2 events off, or you don't push at the appropriate time, the rest of the field is too good and they're going to pass you by. And Rob more or less identified that by watching some of the guys that were the best, as opposed to Jay, where when the moment was to push and to go into the dark place or take the risk and send it, other athletes were doing it more so than he was. And he's not the only one in that situation, but it's risky to do it and it's hard to do it. And I think
every event is a Super Bowl. You can't think of it as a 15 event day, or it's like the UFC. Every fight matters because there's no homeostasis. You're either going up or you're going down.
Sure.
It's not like baseball or basketball where there's 600 games in the year and you could lose one.
Right. And you just have to be good in January or whatever. No. So I got off track.
Jay, well, it's cool that you say that about Jay Crouch. Something I noticed when I was watching the teams is how fast Annie is compared to team athletes. Annie is fast.
Annie could throw herself back into the individual field and be top 5, top 10 athlete. Yeah. And I don't think there's a lot of women in the team division that could do that. The Capitol is the best example of what we were just talking about. Is that at the end of that event, I talked to some people that were at the finish line. I did not go to the finish line for that one. And I talked to some people that were there and they're like, dude, there were athletes that had to be rolled out of the way. They were just like sitting there.
Oh, I saw that.
I saw that.
Yeah.
They were like basically non-responsive, that their nervous system had totally shut down. And 2.5 hours later, they were back out on the field at North Park doing a workout that had 36 ring muscle ups, 90 GHD sit-ups, and jumping over these super high boxes. Your body, their bodies are so well trained and so well prepared, and you just have to believe that you'll be able to do. Like, you have to know that you're going to be able to recover from it and not worry about it. If you want to do as well as you can do at the games, you cannot back off in any workout.
Full throttle. Sevan's kids were conceived on that couch. Not exactly. Not that one. That one was in my not that. That's a hand-me-down from.
You were conceived on that couch.
Yeah. That's possible. That's more likely. That's more accurate. Okay, let's cruise over to the chicas. I don't think Tia's quitting.
Man, that's a brutal situation.
Why?
Because they told us that she was. Everyone,
but I think it's okay, like for there to be.
But Sean Woodland's taking a huge hit for this publicly for announcing that. He checked with every source beforehand and said, "You're sure, and you're sure, and you're sure, and everyone's good with this."
Fuck those people. That's okay.
No,
Fuck
it's
those
not
people.
that. No, I would say that's not cool. Don't tell us that and then not do it. If you're not sure, then don't say anything.
God, I can't. If you're gonna blame someone, you just gotta. Well, if someone's gonna own up to it, it's just gotta be Sean. He came out of his mouth. But like, who cares if she changed her mind?
He would never say that on a whim.
But I agree with that. I'm not saying I believe 100% that Sean knew for a fact she was gonna quit and that she believed she was gonna quit. I also believe that she changed her mind, and I think that's
what it looks like.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. And anyone who's it's obvious that Sean wouldn't have just said that. Hey, even before someone else said it, even before the event started.
The broadcast is the thing that lives on in history. That's the call that's always going to be there. And going forward, if she decides to compete, then he always looks like an idiot on that call, and it's not his fault. I'm telling you,
it is his fault.
No, it's not.
He chose to say it. You know what I mean.
Agree to disagree.
Okay, fine. Well, the thing is I don't think what he did was bad.
No, I just don't think that it was necessary to tell everyone that.
Let me ask you this crazy question then. Let's say she told Sean, "Hey, this is it, I'm done." And then he said, "Hey, can I say that?" She said, "Yeah, go for it. I think that would actually be cool." Let's say that happened. And then she changed her mind. Would you say, don't change your mind, you're going to make Sean look bad?
No, I would say yes. We told everyone that we were planning to do that, and that was okay.
She'll probably say that eventually, won't she?
I don't feel like I'm done. I feel like I have more to give. And if she says that, then I'm cool with it. And everyone's, I think, cool with it.
Dear Sean, But I just want everyone to know I spoke to Tia earlier today, and she wanted me to tell you guys. Earlier today, Tia called me, and she wanted some banana bread recipe. My wife makes
Sean
flourless,
knows.
but I asked her. Go ahead.
Sean knows and prepares to all of those and prepares for those final calls. Those are big deals. They're big moments. They're the ones that are going to be replayed. He writes them up. He goes over them. He checks in with some of his confidence about it. He'll rewrite them. He'll practice them. He wants to get them right. Lining them up with the timing can be difficult in the workout. It's a high stress, high environment. It's a high emotion time. He had something prepared, and then it was informed that she was going to retire, and so he reworked something. And I thought he did a great job of reworking it in a short amount of time to get that call off. And it was all, now it's kind of.
Why do you think that she changed her mind? Because here's why I think. This is based on nothing. This is complete fucking bullshit I'm making up. But I think that she didn't like being exposed by the programming. A little bit. I think she wanted more. I think she's like, fuck it. I can beat these bitches down more. Look,
she was exposed a little bit by the programming. I think she was exposed kind of less than the results necessarily show. I think that there were 2 workouts that she was a little bit exposed on, and neither one of them were her worst event finish. The skill speed medley was a single under trip, which that honestly could happen to anyone. Elevated Elizabeth, I think her position on the traverse of the parallel bars was not as impressive as I thought. Can
we see the workout, Souza? Now that Brian's Brian wants the show to be like a legitimate sports show. I want it to be TMZ. We're in a tussle. Okay, go on. We bring up the workout.
So she was coming off of obviously, her second worst event finish of her career in the skill medley event, and coming into Elevated Elizabeth, we were putting lines in the back, betting lines of how much she would win the next workout by. And I set the over-under at 40 seconds. And she ended up taking 9th in that event and finishing over a minute behind the winner, Ariel Lowen, who was awesome in that workout. And she was actually just awesome in general.
It's kind of cool getting to know Ariel's husband too. I've seen him in a lot of footage now, which is kind of cool.
But
cool. He's cooler than I thought. I thought he was gonna be like a dork who just flips houses, but he's like a man's man. He's like manly. Okay, go on.
So the parallel bars, her position, her shoulders are really up on the traverse, and I think that it was taxing her more than most of the other women that were, especially the women in the top 10. Still, 9th is not a terrible finish, but I do think she was a little bit unprepared for that one. And then also the alpaca event on the last day, 17th on that I was pretty surprised, but I wasn't sure on the last day.
She was chilling.
I wasn't sure how much she was. I know on the final event she was taking it in, and she didn't seem to be in a rush. I'm pretty confident that she would do top 3 at worst in that workout if she wanted to. I think she was pushing it on the back 9 workout because I think she wanted to beat Laura on the yoke and get a little bit of redemption on her from the Aeneas workout in 2018. She took second to her again here. But the alpaca workout was the one that was curious for me. And so, maybe she does feel like that. I don't know. But it's also it's very possible. That's why, I'm always hesitant for people to make these big decisions or claims in the heat of the moment. It's really possible that she went home and within 2 days, she was like, you know what, Shane? I don't think I'm done. I still love doing this.
Well, the whoever was interviewing her at the end, she said, are you going to compete again? She goes, that's the question.
She said, we'll see, which was not.
No. She said, we'll see. I thought she said, well, now either way, she basically left it open.
Yeah.
And even before Sean said it, someone had said, we are now about to see Tia Toomey take the floor for the last time. Or someone else said that.
Sean said, and for the final time, Tia Toomey is the fittest woman on earth.
No, but even before that event began, someone in the live broadcast, someone interviewing, someone somewhere on when we were watching, basically said it. I think it was a girl.
It may have been in the day at the games, Annie Sakamoto, maybe. I don't know. But that's because we were all informed that it was.
I'm glad it's not. I hope it's not. Here's the thing too. Here's Kiki said it on the floor. Maybe that's what I heard, Brenda.
Yeah, Kiki also did say it on the floor, which was The whole thing was weird. There were plenty of opportunities for it to be done elegantly and orchestratedly and in a clear way. And right now, everyone's just confused about it, which
Good. I like it. Well, that sandwiches it up between the first bike event, which we're all confused about, and TS. That's a good shit sandwich. Those women who are competing against her should be ecstatic if she comes back. I mean, if I was Mal O'Brien, like, I mean, if you can beat her, you take her soul. You take her, and by that I mean in the most superficial sense, it's probably the opposite soul. You take all her street cred to your sponsors. Like, it really, you're the girl who beat Tia Toomey. It's cool as shit.
I think that, you know, for all the other women, they really shouldn't worry about it. If they're coming back, then they'll say, okay, I have
Well,
another
if you can
chance
leverage
to
it to
beat her.
train hard, if you can leverage it to train harder.
Sure. But I think that most of those women that really believe that they have a chance to beat her, which there might not be very many, are going to train pretty damn hard either way.
And maybe it's not even trained. Maybe it's like, hey, Justin Medeiros doesn't make mistakes. Maybe people are going to start realizing that and be like, hey, that's what I need to train this year, not to make mistakes.
If you haven't figured that out by now, you know, with your coach, you know, I don't know what you know. It's one thing to know that and to prepare for it. It's another thing to do it. Doing it is the hard part.
Rich going Masters confirmed. That's just comments.
Oh yeah. Well, me and Rich going Masters together next year, head to head.
Last night's show, there were over 2,200 comments in the chat.
2,200 comments
in the chat.
You never mentioned to me a stat about the comments before.
I know. Well, that it's so funny. I didn't even know there was a stat for that. Look at Susan laughing his ass off. I didn't even know there was a stat for that. I was just digging around today when I was at skateboarding camp for fucking 3 hours, and I saw that as a stat. I was like, holy shit, 22. They tell you how many people were in the chat. There's like a graph for it. Probably Susan could find out how many people have already commented in the chat so far. We could just stay live until we break that. Tia Toomey, I want to ask you a question about Justin Medeiros now before I forget. Is that the worst performance of a games champ ever? I know that's a fucked up way to ask that.
No.
Okay.
I mean, there were 14 opportunities to score events or points, and he finished 8th or better 12 times.
Okay. How would you compare that? Can you compare apples to apples? Like, could you take like all of Rich's, take all the athletes and like add up their scores and divide it by how many events and be like the placement is 3.7? Is that how you do that?
We could do that, but here's Rich's last year. He had a 37th,
Halpin can have it done before the
15th,
show's
the
over.
27th, the 13th, the 15th. So he had 5 finishes of that caliber, 2 of which were way worse than any of the finishes that Justin had. So
Justin's better than Rich on track.
I'm saying it wasn't the worst games performance by a male champion ever.
Good. That was a trick question. You were going to be struck by lightning. And this,
we've done a lot of episodes. I can navigate your trick questions all right.
And Tia Toomey, was this her worst performance as a champion?
I don't know. It's maybe close with 2017. I'd have to look more at that.
This is such a fucked up comment. Brian, thank you for your knowledge. Sevan, thank you for your platform. Oh, so I'm the guy with the camera and he's the nude one. And thanks for taking naked pictures of Brian. Fuck off. I mean, thank you, Soccer Mom, for being a long time supporter of the show. Where are you? Okay. Mallory O'Brien, points wise, she looks over 100 points.
What?
She's over 100 points below Tia. Do you think that played a role in Tia's 17th place in the final event?
Well, it wasn't. Look, if she took 17th on that workout, I mean, Mal took 18th. If Mal took first on that workout and closed 60 points on her, that might have been a problem and would have caused some drama going into the last 2 events. So I don't, that's why I said that alpaca workout for Tia is the biggest question mark for me about.
Oh, I'm sorry. She took 10th. Sorry. And Jackie Pro. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. By the time she was starting the final, she'd already locked up the win. So she could just soak that in if it was going to be her last event, which, you know what? It's totally possible that she could have believed starting that workout that was the last event she'd ever do at the CrossFit Games. And it looked like it based on the way she was methodically going through it, looking around, taking things in, smiling to her family. So, yeah, for the last workout, I would say definitely it was reminiscent of Fraser on the last workout, the Fibonacci finale workout in 2017. Where he was just making sure he got the minimum work requirement and enjoying the moment and then lunging to the finish.
I'm thinking about maybe how Sean could have worded it differently. I still don't think it's his. I don't think he did anything wrong, though. So Mal O'Brien, second place, really no threat to Tia. There's still no threat to Tia. Laura Horvat, no threat, right?
I think that, those were the three that I had predicted to be on the podium. I think that they kind of showed their class by the end of the weekend relative to the field. Danielle was very impressive this week, but still I think had some of her holes exposed. Laura's known holes were exposed in this programming, which is expected. Mal is she still had some event finishes that were a little bit low, primarily on the strength tests. She's pretty small relative to the other women up there, but she's also very young. And in general, she's plenty strong for how young she is. She has everything is lining up for her to possibly be the next woman that can reel off multiple titles.
I think I'm not a sports guy at all, but I think in sports it's called clutch. I think that what Laura and Danielle did was clutch. What and maybe even Brooke Wells, what Emma Lawson did was not clutch, meaning when push came to shove in the last day, they fucking did what they needed to do to fucking scrape and climb their way to the top. Emma Lawson did not.
It just had to do with where the workouts were placed. So you could look at Emma
Lawson. I told you I'm not a sports guy. Fine,
no,
it's not
no,
clutch.
It's a good point of conversation.
Okay.
You could look at Emma Lawson's last 6 workouts, which is the last 2 days, and you could say 15th, 10th, 33rd, 24th, 21st, 14th. That's not very good. She broke down as the week went along. Or you could say, you could be reminded of the earlier part of the conversation where I told you that the gymnastics was heavily featured and the skills were heavily featured in the first half of the workouts, and the weightlifting was heavily featured in the back half of the workouts. And we can make the same conclusion that we did about Mal, which is she's incredible. She's only 17. The fact that she's not strong relative to this field should not be that surprising.
You mean Emma Lawson?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if those workouts with the strength elements like the back 9 and the sandbag ladder and alpaca, as it ended up being written, were in the front half of the workout or the test, her weekend might have looked very similar to Laura Horvath's, where she started in the mid-20s and ended up all the way up at 6th or something like that.
You could also say that God loves Laura Horvath the most and took the rope climbs out of.
I don't think the rope climbs would have affected Laura as much as most people think. There are other women that certainly would have been affected by that, and I think much more harshly so than Laura. I still think she finishes top 3 in that workout either way. Probably still wins it. Okay, I'll tell you this. When I first saw the entire slate of workouts, and I looked at what the last 4 workouts are, I thought Laura's going to get 370 out of 400 points. She actually got more than 370 out of 400 points.
In the last 4 workouts, she took a third, a first, and a fourth.
Yeah, so 6 and 12, so 18. So she got 382. I thought she'd get at least 370 when I first saw those workouts. And I was like, damn, if you get 370 out of 400 points, and that's on day 1, you're leading. Maybe you're second to Tia. If you get 370 on the last day, when you know that most of the athletes are going to be broken down and at their worst, and Laura's never shown that she breaks down over the course of the game. She's always good from start to finish. I was like, she could make a really big jump, either points-wise or placement-wise on the last 4 workouts, and she did. So for me, who saw the whole slate of workouts on Tuesday, there was nothing surprising about that. But for someone who didn't know what was coming, it was incredible to watch, extremely exciting, and potentially surprising.
Laura's the only athlete to have 2 first place finishes.
No.
Oh.
Tia, Laura, Haley, and Lucy Campbell all had 2 first place finishes.
Wow. I don't see Tia. I'm looking. I'm cruising through. Oh. Okay. So who were they again? Laura,
Tia, Haley, and Lucy Campbell.
And anyone with 3?
No, we already talked about that. Even on the men's side, there were 5. Did I count that right?
Patrick Clark said something.
Oh, because there was a tie. That's what it was.
Patrick Clark said something interesting here. He must have stole from Mike Halpin. Unless Patrick's got the calculator off or the calculator out while Halpin takes the off. He was saying that the average age of where is that comment? It was a fucking Holmberg 2011. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Souza. Patrick Clark, only 4 women wore the leader jersey. Take out Tia, and the average age of the other women was 18.6 years old.
Haley, Emma, and Mal. Yeah.
And they're competing against their mom out there, Ariel Lowen. Crazy.
Should have been a pretty young mom.
Do you think what do you think about Danielle Brandon's performance did we just watch her do the best games of her career? Is that we just saw her peak?
I don't know, because similarly to both Emma and Mal, she struggled on sandbag ladder, alpaca, and back 9. So her strength was exposed there. And we know that, from semifinals, for example, even with the barbell in the barbell complex, she didn't do great. So she's definitely got room to improve her strength. She has barely been able to squat this year, from my understanding, as she's been coming back from some injuries that she's been having. So I'm hopeful that she can have a healthy season where she's able to actually go through some meaningful strength cycles. And if she is able to improve her strength, then she is obviously in the conversation for a podium threat.
Can you talk honestly about Gabriella Magawa?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened?
What do you mean?
She took 8th.
Okay.
This was supposed to be her year. Top five.
And if the legless rope climbs had been included, she would have done worse than 8th.
Yeah, right.
It's no, I mean, Gabby's got some incredible workouts, of course. I mean, she won the Capital workout. That's like one of them, that was incredible to win that workout, of course. But she got exposed on a few workouts. Most everyone did. She struggled with that hands. The gymnastics basically got her, and I think in some elements, she just wasn't ready for some of those new variations of specific movements. But I think that she has.
Are her holes forever?
I don't think she'll ever be elite at legless rope climbs, for example. But she could.
Why not? Why not? Is that a hard one to? That's a hard one to fix?
This is
who else is not elite? Who else is not elite at legless rope climbs?
Danny Spiegel, Brooke Wells this year for sure. Amanda Barnhart.
Okay, those are good names to be lumped up with. Are there any dudes who aren't world class
at legless rope climbs? No. So the thing is, people are obviously complaining a lot about that workout. Adrian Bosman was very clear in the briefing that he talked to us that was not a legless rope climb workout. He did acknowledge that if you are really bad at legless rope climbs, which I think there's about 10% of the women's field that is very bad at legless rope climbs, that those can obviously stop you in your tracks. But he told us beforehand, and he told me yesterday when I talked to him, that in all of the rounds of testing they did for this, the kettlebells were the limiting factor for most people. And the time they spent on the kettlebells was so much more significant than anything else.
Which we saw this kettlebell rock Emma Lawson.
And Tia and Mal and the Panchik brothers. A lot of the smaller athletes struggle with those kettlebells. Now, some of those athletes certainly could have made up time, especially some of the women, Haley and Christy Aramo, maybe Mal, Emma Lawson, on the legless rope climb relative to some of the other women. But I talked to Taylor Self, and he thinks that Christy could have gone from 27th to 5th on this workout if the legless rope climbs were included in there, never having seen anyone do it with legless rope climbs. And I talked to Adrian Bosman twice about it, who's seen everyone who's ever done the workout do it, and he doesn't seem to think that it is that dramatic of an impact. We don't really know because we didn't get to see it play out. I do think that the workout is better with the legless rope climbs. I think it was a really hard decision for them to make. I do think it had some implications on the leaderboard, particularly for the women's side come the end of the weekend. And it's just one of those things that you have to accept.
The workout Brian's talking about is alpaca. Just so you guys know, all the women are fucking horses, strong as oxes. Who Laura Horvat, Danny Spiegel, Karen Freyova, Ellie Turner, Gabriella Magawa, Alexis Raptis. Those are the top 6. Then Emma McQuaid squeezes in there. She's a bird. But then Amanda Barnhart, Cara Saunders, Ariel Lowen. I mean, these are fucking strong humans. Yeah. But you're also saying that most of these women are strong poolers also, except for the ones you mentioned that like the Danny Spiegel and Laura Horvat. I brought that up before, thinking for some reason I just can't accept the fact that she's a great climber, but the boys JR and Taylor unfucked me on that too. They're like, dude, the girl can pool.
So here's the thing. It was similar to the bike to work. It was just unfortunate circumstances. They were pressed for time because they had to make the obligation for the CBS broadcast later in the day. So they had to make a decision under tension. It was never Adrian's intention to abandon the rope climbs altogether, but he doesn't make that decision independently. He talks to a bunch of people that are consulting him from an equipment specs perspective, from a weather perspective, from a safety and medical perspective. And at the end of the day, with all the input from all those people, that's the decision that they came to.
We heard Bill Henniger. We heard a report that Bill Henniger said wet ropes are not a problem.
Well,
I don't know if that's true. That's just like
one of the
hearsay.
most interesting
like
things
Justin
about
and Ellie
this
are
situation
dating.
is that there has been a CrossFit sanctioned event in the Filthy 150 that had a legless rope climb with a legless descent in an outdoor venue, and they chose to do it even though it was raining. And the athletes,
it was raining during the event.
Yeah, and the athletes figured it out. And that's one of the things that I would say in general about this. This is just a general learning point. And we talked about it earlier with the Sandbag. And this is the reason why I wanted to see all of them have a chance to do the crossover double unders if you're going to have them. And why I want to see all of them have a chance to do the L-sit press to handstand. The athletes will respond in the moment. Dave's always talked about it. It's the athletes that make the test. It's the athlete that makes the experiences. It's the athletes that make the moments. I think that if there was any way to include them, you should have tried to include them. They have those big crash pads here for a reason. This is a good question from David Arsenault that we can definitely talk about if you want.
Do you know who this is?
Yeah, he and I have co-written a couple articles for the Morning Chalk Up. He actually just sent me one earlier today as well that we'll see if we publish it or not.
Because he knows the answer. I like people who ask questions like this. Like this guy knows the answer to the question, but still asks it, and that's important.
He may or may not know the answer. So I was super curious about this, in fact. Because when I looked at the entire test, I noticed that they were chest to bar pull-ups, ring muscle-ups, bar muscle-ups, legless rope climbs, pegboards, and legless pegboards. So you have just about every possible element of upper body pulling movement at a high skill that you could have in one competition. Last year, they had almost all of those also, but they didn't have legless pegboards, but there were more pegboards, and they didn't have legless rope climbs. They had regular rope climbs. So it's not unprecedented to have a lot of volume and a lot of diversity of upper body pulling movements. But upper body pulling was still tested sufficiently, I think, in this test. That's where Taylor and JR disagree with me. But I watched people do that swimming workout, and the people who did it best were intentionally skiing without their lats. They were skiing using the legs and the hips and saving the lats for the last 2 rounds when the pulling would matter the most. And for the women, at least, the ring muscle-ups was a limiter on the up and over workout. For the men, it was not. It was definitely the tall box jumps. But there was this is the cool thing about this the workouts this year. It's actually,
so it is. So just to answer Dave's question, it was fine without the rope climbs. It was fine.
I think
overall,
so.
in the totality.
Here's the thing. What I was about to say is a lot of the workouts, it's difficult to identify one limiting factor. For example, in the last workout where you had 30 bar muscle-ups at the end, there were people that were making big passes on the bar muscle-ups. But why were they making big passes on the bar muscle-ups? It could have been because they could handle the forced rowing pace better. So they were fresher getting there. So even if they didn't have as much of a capacity on them, they were in a better condition to knock out big sets. This is true. This is a true statement. So I do definitely think that there was something lost. The thing that I can't ignore is the fact that the guy who programmed the entire test and who clearly invested a ton of time into doing it has told me on multiple occasions that the kettlebells are the limiter on this workout for the men for sure and for 90% of the women's field. And until I see the workout play out in real time, I have to take his word for it. He's the only one who's ever seen it done that way. I saw them testing that workout. He tested it over and over and over again. just like he did a majority of these different variations, different iterations. And he knew that the legless rope climbs were there, and they were obviously a challenge and something a little different, but it wasn't, in his opinion, the limiter. As it turns out, the kettlebell, and specifically the kettlebell to overhead, was the clear limiter in this workout otherwise. And therefore, I think that, yes, the alpaca was definitely slightly skewed by not having those. And was the overall test skewed? I already have said that there are some women in particular who would not have done as well, or might have done a little bit, or would have done a little bit better placement wise if the legless rope climbs had been in there. Maybe 2 to 4 spots at most, up or down on the leaderboard.
I know this is a tough time to ask you this, but without any more data, but Ellie Turner took 18th.
In what?
In the CrossFit Games this year.
Oh, okay.
Right below Danny Spiegel.
Yeah.
Does she do better next year?
Ellie?
Yeah.
I think so.
Can she break top 10?
Next year, I don't know. In her career, I think eventually, yes.
Did anyone else retire? Just speak about retiring?
I'm under the impression that Cara is going to retire. I don't know where I heard that or why. I would echo this.
Can we check her Instagram, Souza? Cara Saunders? Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
But I would overall echo the sentiments in the comments. Is, let the athletes make those announcements when they want to.
Did you hear any of those athletes? Any athletes make that announcement that you can echo? Let's see. Okay, let's click on that. A decade of lessons. How lucky I've been to learn so much. The biggest, most valuable thing I've learned in this sport and life is unpredictable. It's not always fair, and you often fall short more than you succeed. However, each person is given choices daily. I choose how much I want to give at certain parts of my life and how much blah, blah, blah. Took me so long to understand, but choosing to enjoy my journey 100%. I'm one of those weirdos that likes to work really hard, but isn't free. That's the end of my motivational speech. Morale is what a bloody chaotic but epic week. What a ride. Okay, nothing. Is it true that the taller athletes didn't have to go to the red bar because it was lower to do the bar muscle ups?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is, Taylor had mentioned that he thought that workout should have been placed somewhere else. And I think in particular, because of that, the fact that they allowed that, I agree with him. At the final workout, you want something that's really easy to follow, a progression that's natural and evolves across the floor, especially since it's going to be in a live showing on CBS where you're trying to showcase the sport. You want it to be easily digestible, uniform in application. And obviously there was a controversy around the pull-up bar heights at the Granite Games and the Atlas Games and throughout semifinals. I think that it was a good decision to let them do the bar muscle-ups on the bar where they could actually get the benefit of the kip. But having it as the last workout takes away from a little bit of the drama of the race, because Roman was beating Justin, but he was 2 bars behind him. So it wasn't really obvious that he was beating him.
Right. But we knew at home what was going on because we had a counter.
Okay. Good.
So yeah. I mean, it turned out good. Brooke Wells, incredible finish, top 5, right? Come back from
yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking it's got to be one of the scariest injuries we've seen in CrossFit Games history, and the next year, bam.
She might finish as low as 7th if the legless rope climbs are included here. Maybe 8th, but I don't think any lower than that. But either way, just the way that what she's done in the last 12 months is incredible and should be celebrated. It's honestly, it's a testament to, the just overall medical of things that we have available for athletes to make some kind of recovery like that. But also she has to put in an incredible amount of work. She has to be very trusting in that process. She has to take some risks. I think it was a very emotional year for her. I'm really happy for her and impressed that she was able to do that.
Do the women, you might not like this question, do the women have a Fikowski? Did the women's race have a Brent Fikowski? Can you elaborate?
Possibly, maybe like Amanda Barnhart. She finished 14th. We're used to seeing her in kind of that 7, 8, 9 range, but if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, like anyone who didn't, there's a bit of a like, whoa, what happened?
No, I mean, Haley and Gabby did a little bit worse, still inside the top 10. Haley's performances this year echoed last year's it was pretty similar. Last year, she had 7 top 10s, no event wins. This year, she had 5 top 5s. Maybe I wrote that wrong. 2 event wins. She had 3 bottom 10s this year, 4 bottom 10s last year, but a lot of those were coming after cuts were made. So, it just, I think, overall speaks to more of the field getting better. Then she didn't really do that much worse. Amanda Barnhart finished lower than she traditionally has, so she might be the best answer to that.
I'd like to say this, by the way, anyone out there, if you did not see the short interview I did with Amanda Barnhart, you should. That is one of the coolest ladies I've had on the podcast. And if you are a podcaster and you want to have a fucking slam dunk, easy, awesome, engaged guest, get her. She's cool. She's real. She's healthy. People should know her. I'd like to have her on again. I'd like to have her make shows for me. Better hurry up, Khaleesi. I'm looking for someone else. Thuri Helga daughter, 9 times to the CrossFit Games. 10 times? How many times?
I don't think it was 9 either, but a lot of times.
She gets capped
on the row. It was
this
actually super
This
cool.
is a fucking real games athlete. This is like a
7 times.
7 times. I mean, she's that's like Hall of Fame status, right?
Starting back in 2012. I mean, she's been very consistent, in the sport for a long time, and she's been to the game 7 times. Yeah, there's not a lot of people who can say that.
I mean, there's great CrossFitters who have not been to the game 7 times.
You want to know something cool about that row?
Well, yeah, tell me.
Christy, she PR'd her row to make that time cap. And I didn't know that when I was watching it. I think she's publicized it since then. But I was watching her, and I mean, it was obvious that she was
her stroke rate was nuts
into it. Yeah, she was going into that place where you're not even like going all the way into the catch, and you're just increasing your stroke rate and getting everything you can. And she said she had a 2-second PR on a 1K row to make that time. I saw someone made a comment about
she was wounded. She was like, showed her. She looked like a dog who had been hit by a car. I mean, she's like, she was wounded.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying, where it looked like the bar muscle ups were maybe the separator on that workout. It wasn't necessarily the case. Depending on how well you were able to manage the row, you could feel pretty good getting to the bar muscle ups, or you could have just been totally trashed. Christy in 30 bar muscle ups for time is going to probably be top 3 in the field. And she wasn't really able to make as big of a push on those as she would have otherwise, because she had just PR'd her 1K row at the end of a week of competition. But as with many things, someone had made a comment in there that the demo team athletes were good at legless rope climbs. Adrian tested these workouts with many people before the demo team ever got on site, and a variety of different people that are good and bad at these things. And he said that he was very confident in the men's time for that row, and that it took a lot of nuance and testing to finally get the women's time right, and that he was a little nervous about it, but at the end, he was confident it was the right time. And the fact that 28 out of the 30 women made it means that I think he chose a perfect number at 340.
The rookie didn't make it. Rebecca Fuselier, small, doesn't look like she was given any tools to row at birth, but really, is that the right time that a 7 times CrossFit Games qualifier from not easy regions doesn't make it?
Yeah, I don't think there. I mean, you wanted it to be aggressive. The time for men was 3:15. I don't think anyone finished under 3:10. Some of them were able to just be very consistent and controlled.
Oh, you would be so disappointed in me, Brian. I brought that up in the show I did with John Young, and thank God for John Young. He saved the day so many times. But anyway, let me go back to bashing him. And I pushed back. I'm like, these times are crazy aggressive. He's like, they're not that aggressive. It's not that. I'm like, and I just backed down like a pussy.
They're
crazy aggressive. Tell me how right I was.
The goal was they could do it, but they don't want to do it. Okay. If you didn't have that there, everyone would have rode 10 to 30 seconds slower.
Wow.
Knowing that they could then capitalize on big sets of thrusters or big sets of bar muscle ups. But by forcing them into that pace, that's not how they would usually execute a workout in a training session. And I love that he did that. And I guarantee you that people in general will now be second guessing how they incorporate pacing into the structure of their workouts.
When by the way, this is why you watch the show. Brian's just dropping gems now. The Christy Rama thing is brilliant. That's a PR for. Tell me what you know about the Sandbag event, Brian. Tell me when you guys are the broadcast and these fucking knuckleheads max out the bags.
Yeah, this is good.
What are you guys doing? Are you guys like, oh shit, should we get ready for the tiebreaker? Should we get ready for the interview for the winner? Like, what the fuck? Were you guys like trying to figure out what the fuck's going on?
But so Adrian was standing like 20 feet away from me on the floor while this is going on. And he's watching and I'm watching him because I know from the briefing that Griffin Raleigh either barely got or barely missed the 330 bag. And everyone knows.
So sorry, 1 second. For those of you who don't know, this event was lifting up a heavy bag and putting it on your shoulder, and there were bags that kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and there became a point where the bags went up to 340 pounds, and 3 guys lifted them, or 4 guys, and those 4 guys, you could tell from watching it, they couldn't fucking believe they lifted them. They were in shock. We were in shock at home. The whole thing was fun, and the show kind of stopped for a second because it was like, uh-oh, now what? Okay, sorry, Brian. For those who didn't see it, go ahead.
So Griffin Raleigh, who's one of the strongest guys in CrossFit, had either just barely gotten or just barely missed the 330 bag in training. Adrian is a seasoned veteran, and of course he knows it. And in the heat of the moment, like, people will rise to the occasion. But by no means did they expect that many guys to last that long into the competition. They had actually a plan for paring it down at 21 athletes to only 3 guys lifting, and then paring it down at 10 athletes to only 1 guy lifting. And they almost had to abandon that because there was like still 16 guys left at the 310 or 320 pound bag. I mean, it was crazy. And then you had those huge tie breaks. But when they were about 300, 310, I got Adrian's attention and I asked him, because the broadcast was asking the exact question that you are, what if multiple people lift the 340, what's the plan? And he said, stay tuned. But as for now, it's tie break. We're just going to do the tie break. And then a few minutes go by, people are still staying in, and he comes over and he goes, hey, there's a 350 bag in the back. Bill just made it for me.
Just made it. I think I asked Adrian that too. So there wasn't a 350 bag.
No.
That's a rogue. Because when the bag came out, there was a piece of tape. I thought like it would come out, it'd be like a gold bag. But it was a red bag with a piece of tape on it, covering up the weight.
Yeah. It was not, there was not an intention to have a 350 pound bag. So they just decided, which I think was the right decision to make it. The thing that I would have done differently is I would have wheeled it out there unlabeled and put it in front of them when the 340 bag was still sitting there. And the reason I would have done that is because I think that after all the athletes finished lifting the 340 bag and they knew they'd cleared the ladder, that their nervous system shut off. And that if it hadn't, if they knew there was another bag out there, I'm really, really confident that at least 1 and potentially up to 3 of those guys still would have done it. If you go back and watch Guy lift the 340 bag, it looks pretty easy. And if you watch him lift the 350 bag, he had no chance.
Right.
Fikowski was literally an inch away from getting the 350 anyway. I'm certain that he could do it. And I think Hopper, even though it didn't necessarily look like he got that close, I think the same for him. If he had known there was another bag, I think he would have had a chance to get it. I'm not so sure about Nick Matthew, but either way, it was incredible what he was able to do in that workout. So I think that was like, and but either way, it was great that they brought out an extra bag and gave him a chance. And like I said, it was the most fun that I'd have ever had at a competition, that 20 or 30 minute time period. And the only thing that could have made it better is if one of those guys would have hit the 350 bag for the outright win.
When they roll the 350 out there, does the stadium go fucking bonkers?
Yeah.
It's, this happened at the, third CrossFit Games also. And
it happened in the clean ladder with the women, I think, that they went beyond what was the heavy bar and they just let them keep going.
This was that was in Carson?
No, that was in 2019, I think, with Barnhart and Tia.
Okay. I was probably crying because
the one you're talking about is from Aromas.
Yeah. I was probably crying in 2019. I probably didn't watch those games. I was just in a fucking puddle of tissues. But that they ran, and then they came in and had to do deadlifts. starting at, I don't know what, 200 going up to 500 pounds or whatever. And they never thought in a million years that anyone would be able to fucking run however far they ran, 7 miles in the hills and come in and deadlift 500 pounds. And the fucking dude who took last place in the run, I don't remember his name. Big old fucking yoke dude. God, I wish I could remember his name. I made a video on him. He was cool as shit. Anyway, he fucking did 500, and then it started happening. I think
16
Miko
people did
500 that year in 2009.
Yeah, I think there was a 16-way tie for first.
Yeah, and I remember Tony and Dave like fighting with each other. It was
Kelsey, Peter Edgett, Jeremy Teal, Jerome Perryman, JC Nessa, Rob Orlando, Jordan Holland. I actually met him this week.
Damn.
Josh Everett, Lance Mosley, Scott Lewis, Dave
Lance
Wilson.
Mosley. That's the guy. Lance Mosley. Go ahead.
Oh, that's cool. Jason Niago, DJ Wickham, Graham Holmberg, Spencer Hendel, and Jason Kleepa.
Wow. And you didn't say Miko.
He wasn't. No, this was in. 2000.
He was there.
He won. Oh yeah, not Miko, correct.
But he got it off. He got it off the ground and just warred, but didn't complete the lift. Look at. I got a picture of Lance. I'll never forget it. When he picked it up, the fucking place went crazy. Oh shit! Look at this website. This is nuts. This is like. That's the old site, right?
These sites are where you have to go to find, or it used to be where you have to go to find the results for the CrossFit games from the way back when, but now they have them on the game site.
36 years old, 5'7", 198. Oh, he's 50 now. Lance is 50. He's the same age as me.
Look at that.
Okay, what we're talking about? We're talking about the games this year and the events. Was there an event you didn't like, Brian? There was one I did not like that I thought was just ass.
So
I can't remember which one it is.
The other workout that I was a little bit skeptical or questioning of was the hat trick workout. And this was the sprint, tall wall balls, dumbbell snatch sprint workout.
Oh yeah, that was one Ellie Turner was just a savage on, right?
Yeah, and she won that workout because of rebounding speed out of the bottom of the wall ball. It was incredible, and it was faster than everyone else, and that was enough for her to make a difference every round. Now, Adrian was very specific in what he wanted in this workout. He wanted it to be where there were 20 athletes going, 20 athletes watching, and then another 20 going and another 20 watching. And you knew that you had to push every single element. You had to run hard. You couldn't miss a wall ball. You couldn't miss a snatch, and you had to run hard to the finish line.
Yeah,
that's what he wanted, and that's how it ended up playing out. The reason that I'm a little bit questioning of it, I think I would have liked to have seen 5 rounds, because I think after 3 rounds, you were still, and again, this might have been exactly what he wanted, but you were really rewarding the person who didn't make a single mistake. And like you couldn't like I said, Roman missed 2 snatches. He didn't miss them. He just tapped one head instead of 2 to the ground.
That was a theme of the games, penalizing those who make mistakes.
It
was a theme, yeah.
But I think that in terms of if you wanted to test fitness in that workout, 5 rounds, in the 4th and 5th round, you would have started to see some people fade off a little bit. So that was one of the workouts that I was, questioning a little bit.
David McKellar is talking about the 2009 games. I don't remember Sam being there, but maybe he was there. If he did say that, I'm sure that it was me who interviewed him.
Sam Dancer? They're talking about 2016.
Oh.
At the ranch, where they did the trail run, deadlifts, and then ranch mini chipper.
Okay. I don't remember.
Him and Brooke Wells both finished last, I think, on the run, and then first on the deadlift.
That was the 10-year anniversary one? 2016. Yeah. If they're at the ranch. Okay. The workout I did not like was the Echo Press.
Echo Press. So interestingly enough, and I think that Taylor and
I want to throw it away.
They are speculated correctly on this one.
Yeah.
He had tested this in a few different iterations with varying numbers of handstand push-ups or varying amounts of Echo Bike. And actually, the last change that he made was to increase the calories on the Echo Bike to balance the workout a little bit more. And so he knew full well, same as could have been the case with the alpaca workout, is that you could you could get stopped in your tracks if you're not good enough at the handstand push-up. But as we saw, that didn't happen to very many people. There were a couple people it happened to, and a majority of the people were able to do it. But not all of them were able to do it in the same number of sets. I think it was Colton Merton's heat where he was able to do it in 1 set, 2 sets. And there was a bigger guy in his heat that was able to do it in like 2 sets, 3 sets. And so he's always losing ground on the handstand push-up, but could always make it back up on the bike. And I think he might have even gotten him on the bike or maybe gotten really close to him on the bike at the end. And that's what Adrian wanted in that workout, was that back and forth where the echo bike could pull ahead, the handstand guy could pull ahead, the echo bike could catch back up, the handstand guy could pull ahead, and the echo bike would have a chance to catch at the end. And it played out that way in a few instances and did create the kind of race that he was looking for. My guess is that you didn't like the standard for the judging of the handstand push-ups, which did produce inconsistencies. What I would say to that is...
And I didn't like the presentation. I didn't like the judging. I didn't like the presentation of it. Like, I would have much rather have just seen their hands on plates, like set the negative, or what's it called? The deficit to whatever you want it to be with the plates, put a fucking pillow down there and fucking let them ab mat.
So there's
and let them get
things...
at it. So I can see what the fuck is going on. There was this... That
well,
giant rubber thing was fucking ridiculous. And
Adrian's,
I was just imagining in my head the whole time them cutting those in the back. And it was.
He said they broke a lot of saws cutting them.
Yeah, it looked absurd. It looked like something like you do with a Dremel at your house and you regret starting the project.
The athletes ask the same question.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know if I'm low enough?
Yeah.
And what Adrian's response to them is, how do you know you're low enough in a squat? You just feel it. You know it, because you've done it enough times. Now, you haven't done this necessarily before, so there's not quite that parallel, but this speaks to what he said earlier. I said to you about wanting to see the athletes adapt. So he wanted it. He did not want there to be a tactile response at the bottom. That was an intentional omission from the workout. I still think that there are other ways that you might have been able to design this that would have made it easier on the judges. And my overall critique of the movement standard here is, if you're going to have something, and I've said this going back all the way to 2019 with the second cut workout with the double kettlebell shoulder to overhead, that if you're going to have a new movement standard or a new movement, it cannot be new for both the judges and the athletes. So you should, if you're not going to prepare the athletes ahead of time, at least prepare the judges ahead of time. And at the CrossFit Games, you should trust the judges, because those are all level 1 seminar staff that are always trusted in the CrossFit circle. And if you're going to have that movement, you should send them out something ahead of time that's some kind of NDA accompanied with, hey, by the way, there's a few new standards that we're going to be implementing this year. Review these videos and be prepared to make these calls. In the case of the women, the problem was the hair. Some of their hair was hanging down, or they had a bun on top of their head or whatever. Yeah. Adrian told the women that they needed to pull their hair tight so that didn't happen. But, hair gets out of place sometimes in a workout. The echo bike's blowing the hair around and whatever. And so it did make it challenging to judge. Upon video review after the fact, many people showed me videos of different athletes where it appeared fairly obvious that they weren't meeting the standard and they were getting credit for the reps, or that they were making the standard and weren't getting credit for the reps. And it was definitely a little bit subjective. So I would say that the overall takeaway is, it's really difficult to have a brand new standard or brand new movement for both parties involved, the athletes and the judges.
You could put your hand down there and have the fucking them touch your hand.
Did you miss the part where I said he did not want there to be a tactile response? You don't like it.
It's just, did he say why he didn't want there to be a tactile response?
Because he wanted them to feel it and to know, yes, this was enough.
Ask me again, how do you know when you're at the bottom of a squat?
How do you know?
You have to ask me again, the whole thing.
How do you know when you're at the bottom of a squat, Sevan?
When the helmet of the penis hits the cervix.
Are you happy with that response?
Yeah. It's crazy. No tactile response.
That same thing happens to me when I do handstand push-ups.
So did you hate? I hated the workout period. It did not. Right. I don't like the workout. I didn't like the way it was presented. I didn't like, maybe it was the layout, but those, I just didn't, I could
tell you who did impress me in that workout was Jason Hopper and Roman Krennikov, because those are two of the heaviest guys in the field, and they figured out a way to make that work. The thing I will say one of the things that Adrian was looking for in that workout is that you could not get away with the arching position that we see in the handstand push-up occasionally. And he really wanted the athletes to be forced into having to stack appropriately for a handstand push-up and to expose you if you weren't able to do that. And I think the athletes were able to
stack appropriately. Is that like that?
Yeah.
You mean the muscle? Okay.
Yeah, to not have a big arch in your back when you're coming out of a handstand push-up. You know, some people have that big arch and then push their head through to the finishing position.
Yeah.
And he wanted you to have to be in that rib cage closed and good overhead position that's taught at every level 1 that's ever existed. But the athletes were able to skirt it a little bit, and you could still arch your back and kind of worm your way up the wall a little bit more than I think was the intent.
Brian's voice is soothing and calm. The BAM Sevan, you could put your fucking hand on there. Thank you. I don't know what that means, but I just like it. You could put your hand on there. It's all. I always like a hand on there. If you think maybe your testosterone levels are low, you should go to CaliforniaHormones.com. It's CAHormones.com. You should use the password Sevan. CAHormones.com. You should use the password Sevan. And you'll get a free doctor's consultation. If you live in California, you'll get free blood work. If you're not in California, have your insurance pay for it. I cannot believe how many people are sending me DMs telling me how stoked they are that they're doing this. It's crazy how many people are telling me that it's good for their head. If you want coffee, you should go to Paper Street Coffee. It's Paper ST Coffee. Fuck, why are these guys' web addresses all fucked up? It's CA Hormones. That's with an H, not with a W, by the way. It's Paper Street Coffee, Paper ST Coffee. You use the password Sevan, you get 10% off. There's probably some other people who've been taking such good care of us. If you want a shirt, a bee-friendly shirt, go to Sherpa. If you want some Sevan Podcast gear, go to Life is RX or to Vindicate.
I like Life is RX's stuff, by the way.
Yeah, me too. I like it too. I like their shirts are a little thicker, and so they hang off my shoulders a little more nicely. Matt Reynolds, what about squatting to a wall ball for people who are new to the Matt? This is the CrossFit Games. What are you talking about? This isn't a show about the L1. Yes, fine. Squat to whatever you want if you're new. Just make sure it doesn't hurt you. Darren Coughlin. Darren has a professional coaching daily website and newsletter that you can subscribe to. It's called masterofcoaching.online. Always a great contributor to the show. Always sends me very thoughtful texts. Please check it out, masterofcoaching.online. Another fucked up fucking, why can't it be masterofcoaching.com? Masterofcoaching.online. I thought it had to be 3 letters. Darren Coughlin, the capacity to judge needs to be tested before the athlete's capacity is tested.
I think this is more or less what I was saying.
You can't have blind judges. Lots of variations of standards throughout the games.
No, I think that in general, this is a theme throughout the season, is that there were opportunities for the CrossFit Games team to communicate things either to judges or to athletes in a way that would have set them up more for success. I totally understand Adrian's perspective of wanting the athletes to have to adapt, and that's appropriate. But I also want to see them put into settings where they have the capacity to show their capacity or their fitness. And when you put them into an environment where the standards are new and unclear for everyone involved, fan, judge, athlete, etc., then that can often be, I don't like the word, but it can be, you can detract from the main emphasis, which should be the athlete's ability to either do it or not.
I think you handled that. Was a great word. You're not going to get canceled. Brian, this isn't a programming show, Jeremy, but great question. What about no burpees?
So I thought that when they took out the rope climbs that they were going to put in a burpee. Like, I just thought it was like, okay, we got to put in something in there so that it's not just a straight up power output test. And I thought that they might put the burpee in. But overall, I think that the takeaway from this is you don't have to have burpees in the test. You don't have to have any individual thing in the test. And I think that it would actually be good for things like swimming to show up twice one year and no times the year after that, and to make elements of that a little bit less predictable. So no burpees this year, no problem for me.
What about the length of the games?
In terms of, I actually liked the fact that there wasn't a day off. I think that it should be 5 days. I think some of the days could have more volume than others, and that's totally appropriate. But the way that it played out with the 3 workouts, 2 workouts, and then et cetera, the rest of the week, I actually really like that. I think 5 days is great. I think there should be workouts every day for the individuals, and obviously the intensity, duration, and difficulty of those can vary day to day. But I think it's appropriate.
I think it's cool too. I like the length of them. I think it was really cool that there was a rest day that they got to utilize to make up.
I also think the cuts were good this year.
Yeah.
I think this is the format that I hope that they stick with this format. I think that it's very fair for the athletes that even in the bottom 10, they got a full test. I mean, 10, 11 scores already by the time Saturday night hit. They got to go heavy. They got to go long. They got to do the skills. They got to try it all. And there is, like, the bottom 10 athletes to me are, have always been at the games, less capable than the next 10, the next 10. Every heat's always getting a little bit better. And I think that it's okay to cut 10 going into the last day. So I was a fan of this, the way that it planned out in terms of the cuts this year as well.
Any updates on Miss Emily Rolfe?
Oh my God, dude. I saw her. I guess it was the day she got out of surgery, which was a couple of days after. I'm trying to remember what day it was that happened. Man, I just felt terrible for her. Not only is that obviously like a super unfortunate thing and a pretty brutal, surgery procedure to have to go through, but she thinks she would have done really well on a lot of these workouts.
I think she would have too.
And she would have been a good addition to the women's field in that maybe like 15 to 25 was about where she would have finished, but maybe a little bit towards the top end of that.
15th was Jacqueline Dahlstrom. 14th was Amanda Barnhart. 16th was Lucy Campbell.
Yep.
Emma McQuaid up there. We didn't have a Fikowski here. Danny Spiegel completely fucking handles her business on that bag workout. Do you think she comes back next year? I mean, look, we talked about her before the games, and I said, man, like, she needs to prove to me that she can survive a full CrossFit Games. This was a tough test. It was a full test. It was 5 days. There were a lot of different things. She had to run far. She had to run fast. She had to lift heavy. She had a lot of gymnastics. She did it all. She finished in the top half of the field. And even if the legless rope climbs were in there, if you look at the points margin, it's over 100 points down to 20th. So she would have finished in the top 20 either way, which is a great credit to her. I think this is the best performance that she's had yet in her career, even though some other performances, other competitions were higher. It was not as difficult of a test. It was not as difficult of a field. So to me, this is the best Danny Spiegel we've ever seen. And hopefully she comes back next year. Yeah. If I told you that the greatest improvement of any of the top 10 athletes you're looking at, which are Tia Toomey, Mal O'Brien, Laura Horvath, Danielle Brandon, Brooke Wells, Emma Lawson, Cara Saunders, Gabriella Magawa, Haley Adams, Alexis Raptis, in that order, if I told you that there was an athlete in here that was going to improve twice as much as her next closest competitor and be on the podium next year, who would you think it is?
Either Emma or Alexis.
Wow. Okay, so before we go to the great Emma Lawson, who I think we might be seeing something absolutely insane here, but why Alexis Raptis? You're high on her.
Well, the way that you asked the question is a little bit, theoretical.
How old is she? How old is she?
23, I think 23.
Okay.
Those are the two rookies that made the top 10 for the women this year. Alexis has some great skills that we were able to see. The reason why I say that is, okay, so you added in to make the podium. I think Emma Lawson is a bigger podium threat than Alexis is, but apart from that, to improve, to get twice as good or something, like Emma's already, I would say, is a level ahead here. So I think there's more room for improvement for Alexis. But I think that both are likely to be top 10, contenders and pushing even higher up that throughout the next. I mean, it's always hard to say how long they're going to compete for, but I think they're both in a really good spot.
What did you find most impressive of Emma Lawson? If you were going to sell her to a sponsor, what would you tell them?
Maturity and composure at that age. It's unteachable, I think. Mal has it too. Discipline, grit, hard work, the ability to push through pain, the intangible stuff. Like all these people are very talented, but it speaks to what Rob Forte talked about. Jay Crouch can have all the skills, be strong enough, be good enough, but if you don't have the discipline to recover event from event, the discipline to know when to push, and the willingness to go to the dark spot when you need to, workout after workout, then you're only going to be so good at the games. These two girls, from everything I saw, because it's not, again, when you're there and you're close enough, you can see their face, you can see their breathing, you can see the way that they're navigating the workout apart from what the rep counters are showing on the TV. And it's different and it's unique. And the thing I said about Emma before this was, I need to see her compete on the field with the best women in the sport. And this week we got to see that basically every single workout, because she was in the top 10 from the beginning. And she had some lower finishes towards the end of the week. But like I said, those are mostly based on strength that I think she'll get better on. And it's the things that these two girls are doing is only possible because of the intangible stuff that you can't measure.
When she got 21st in the test of strength workout, the back 9. Can I call it that? The test of strength workout?
I love that workout. Yeah.
Okay. I liked it too. And I thought the athletes did great at it. The weights that Adrian chose and the movements, it was awesome. There were people just cruising through it, and we got to see that. Emma Lawson, 17, takes 21st. Haley Adams, still super duper young, takes 26. Neither of them finished the workout.
Danielle Brandon, 25th, did not finish the workout. Alexis Raptith, 20th, did not finish the workout. So four of the top 10 didn't finish that workout. And
the only reason, if we had never seen Haley Adams before, and she showed up to the CrossFit Games this year and took 9th, right? And we knew she was 21, we would still believe, like, holy shit, she can get stronger and win the CrossFit Games. But because we've seen her for so long, and the strength workouts are always the holes, we're starting to lose faith.
I'm not losing faith in that.
Okay.
Here and part of this is just based on my own experience. I'm not very strong. And for basically from 2016 to 2020, I wasn't getting any stronger. And then in the last 2 years, I've been able to get stronger. And so, and I'm a lot older than her. I know people at my gym that are 45 and 50 years old who are still PRing some of their strength numbers. So sometimes, and especially in the realm of strength, I think there can be long plateaus before a breakthrough. The thing is that not everyone's always going to stick to it. She's right. This person is right. Haley does have great discipline. The other thing is that I don't know what Haley's training is like and how much of her training she's really committing to strength. And that doesn't just mean how many times she's going in the gym and squatting. It means what she's doing surrounding that. And how much of a focus she's putting on it. And maybe it's enough, and maybe she'll just have that breakthrough another year, 2, 3 years from now. But maybe also at some point she'll just be like, okay, this isn't working. And she has to make that decision. It's kind of like if you've ever known anyone who's had an addiction, and I can talk about this because I have had an addiction, is that it didn't matter how much you loved me or cared about me or told me until I was ready to admit it and work on it. Nothing was going to change. And maybe it's the same thing with fitness. She's so good at so many things, and she can go in the gym and do those things and feel great about how good she is. She is going to have to want to and really want to say, no, I'm going to change the way that I approach the next 6 months, the next 9 months, or the next year, maybe 2 years. If I want to make it's not just a 1% improvement. If I want to make the podium, if I want to win the CrossFit Games and I'm Haley Adams, I think she has to make a 2-year minimum dedicated commitment to getting stronger, even if her performances regress over those 2 years at the games.
Someone posted, Emma's still in public school. I wonder if she still goes to school. Okay, so you haven't lost faith. I like that.
No.
Okay. When can we expect a new power rankings from you?
Like all time?
That and all time,
or going into the off season?
but both. I was thinking going into the off season. Like this is definitely things have changed, right? We looked at one about 30 days before the games. Then we did a games prediction show, and I think it's time to reevaluate.
I mean, that's super fun because you could still include people like Jamie Simmons or Sarah Sigma's daughter, Katrin David's daughter, Annie Thor's daughter, if she decides to go individual that didn't make it to the games. You could include someone like Jake Berman, who missed the last chance qualifier by 1 spot, who missed the MAC by 1 spot, and all 5 guys who beat him at the MAC finished inside the top 20 at the games. So it's, it's one of those things like how well could he have done there if he'd been given the opportunity to get in? So yeah, that's definitely a good idea.
What do you think? Will we have it in sometime in September?
Yeah, we'll do it maybe before then. I don't know.
Mihail Pedrini Poletti. I think the offseason is too short to get strong in the levels she needs.
That's what I'm saying. She has to abandon her finishes or rankings for a 2-year period of time and commit to the strength. She's still got such a huge amount of capacity. Obviously, she's still going to do some other stuff besides just lifting, but she has to make that a priority for an extended period of time. Accept the fact strength increases so minimal for Natalie folks.
This is a brutal comment. Trent Trent Merrill.
Here's the thing: is I don't know how much Trent Merrill knows about how true this is. What does it mean that she's focused exclusively on this and this is all she's worked on? She could say that. She could say, it feels like all I ever do is squat. My legs are always sore. But I still think that there's a difference between really committing to that and doing it a lot.
Anything else, Brian? We didn't talk about teams. That could be a whole nother show.
I haven't delved into the team a lot, but the one thing that I'll say about the team programming this year, there was very, very little worm work, almost none. And similarly, there was no heavy or even really moderately heavy barbell work for the individuals. But I would not assume that that's not going to be the case next year.
And Mayhem ended up handling their business, and Reykjavik didn't do so bad themselves with a 4th.
Correct.
Any word on what Annie's doing next year?
No, I honestly haven't really pursued any of those things. I haven't tried to find out what's going on with Haley or Tudor or Annie or anyone else.
Haley isn't on the juice. Okay. Anything else before we wrap this sucker up?
You tell me.
I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we've stimulated a lot of talk. I think we can circle back and talk about some of these guys more in depth. I think we need to have some of these guys on. I'd really like to know how the games affected some of these guys. It'd be really fun to. What do you think about walking through the events with Ricky?
I think people would love it. I think he might enjoy it.
Yeah. Just pull them up one at a time and let them just to tell us like shit that happened back there, shit that Benny said to him, people like shit that him and Vellner talked about. It'd be nice to do that with Vellner too, actually.
I will say a couple things. I was incredibly impressed with Roman, Sam Quant, Jeff Adler, and Jason Hopper. I already talked about Lazar Jukic. These guys were super impressive to me, and we didn't really get a chance to talk too much about them. It was awesome to have Cara Saunders back at the games, finishing 7th, it was great. She seemed to be having a ton of fun. It was cool to see her with her kid and her husband. I was really impressed with Danielle. I was really impressed with Emma Lawson, Alexis Raptis, Ariel Lowen. And I was impressed with a lot of the European rookies on the women's side, even though they didn't necessarily do as well. Lucy Campbell, Matilda Garns, probably not a lot of people. Lucy, you saw a couple times because she got a couple event wins, but one of them was the last event that she won in from the 3rd heat or the 2nd heat. And Matilda Garns, who you probably didn't see very much of at all, had a pretty respectable 19th place finish as a rookie at the games. I thought Paige Semenza was good. There were a lot of people that were, telling me she was gonna do pretty well. She finished 21st. It was great to have her back, and it was her best ever finish there. And I was really impressed with the women from Asia. Sungyoung Choi looks like she belongs at the games. I mean, she improved from last year, 26th place. And Seher Kaya made the top 30. So both of the women out of Asia qualified and made inside the cut line. I thought that was a huge win for them. So those are just some of the things we didn't get to that I thought were worth mentioning.
I know this is kind of a cheeky comment and maybe doesn't deserve your time, but Brian, not impressed with Ricky Garrard.
Incredibly impressed with Ricky. I apologize if I didn't mention him in that list. I didn't really know how good Ricky could do. I did have him slightly outside the top 10. John had him inside the top 10, but I don't think either of us were expecting him to be clearly. I mean, those three guys were clearly ahead of the rest of the field from beginning to end of the weekend. I know he slipped a little bit relative to the other two in the end, but like the fact that Roman was in the top 3 after the first half of the workouts, when all of the gymnastics movements and skill tests were being exposed. I mean, this guy, he is, I can't really say enough good things about him. And yes, I could say the same about Ricky. So I apologize for omitting him in that list.
Does Justin Medeiros win the games again next year?
So I will stick to what I've been saying, which is I will pick him to win every competition he enters until he loses. But I will not be surprised at all if Roman wins the games next year.
Impossible.
What?
Thank you guys for checking in.
Impossible.
And tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I have the UFC show with Justin Nunley, TikTok comedian, superstar, and Darian Weeks, UFC welterweight. And I think the following day I have Ariel Lowen, and then the following day it's just pouring in, Okay, Brian, thank you. You were amazing.
Thanks.
Peace and love, everybody.